This quest lies in the Kanto Safari Zone. If you are playing casually, you might not even know that Dragonair can spawn here. Because to see one, you have to see 100 Goldines first, at least. But Dragonair can, in fact, appear here, at an extremely low 1% chance. It'll take an average of 100 encounters just to see one, but once you finally do, actually catching this thing is an entirely different beast. The other big problem is that it doesn't just spawn while in the grass. You can only find this thing while fishing with the super rod, and fishing encounters are generally much slower than regular wild encounters. And what you just watched was one of the luckiest oddities, coming at only 38 encounters, which still took 20 minutes in itself. This is our first one along the journey to find the Dragon Fang. Like I said before, the game of luck truly begins when you do find one, and the game of catching begins. If we blindly throw a safari ball at it right away, chances are it won't even shake once, and it'll flee instantly. You see, every ball you throw only has an 8% chance of it catching, and as soon as you throw your first ball, you're already completely screwed. You see, Dragonair has a 47% chance to flee, which is basically a 50-50 coin flip every single turn. With only an 8% chance to catch, that means in order to catch one, you'll likely have to encounter 10 before one finally catches, which will take hours, if not days. Even if you're speeding up multiple games on an emulator, it will likely take you an entire day to catch one of these guys. With a 1% spawn rate, that's 1,000 fishing encounters, just for one Dragonair.
Oh, that is
Once
so
you get
good.
unbelievably lucky and you do
Yeah,
catch
that
one,
is
that
so
prize you
good.
just caught
I combine
only has
that
a 5%
with...
chance to hold the Dragon Fang,
Oh my god, I got
which
both the
means it will
special.
take an average
It's...
of 20 dragons for one of them to be holding the item.
How often can
20
you...
dragons caught, 1,000 for each one. That is 20,000 encounters for one item. But there's a way to cut those encounters in
See, I
half.
have
To show you, first we have to find our
80
second dragon.
Poseidon.
182 encounters later, here it is. Thanks to Professor Rex and people digging through the game's internal code, we have found the most efficient way to catch the Pokemon in the Safari Zone. We can effectively raise our chance of capture from 8% to 19% by using what's known as the bait method. Here's our Dragonair we just encountered. Now instead of throwing a ball, we're going to choose to throw bait. No matter what though, on this very first turn,
Absolutely
Dragonair
melting.
always has a 50% chance to flee. There is nothing we can do to change that. If we get lucky and we win a coin flip, our dragon will take the bait that we threw and have its chance of fleeing lowered down to 10%. We can then follow a
Just one
specific
thing.
order of bait and safari balls to maximize our chance of capture to 19%. But that still means we have to see 5 Dragonairs at least to even catch a single one.
Obviously, well timed.
500 fishing
Perfect timing.
bites for one caught dragon. And the
Yeah,
odds
that's
are
6
we finally
dashes,
catch
man.
one.
1,
We will
2,
not
3,
have
4,
the
5,
Eagle's
6.
Dragon Fang.
1, 2, 3,
This
4.
is going to take a long time.
Oh, just plus 3, so total 4 dashes.
Wake up. Wake up.
And you have to remember, when you're battling against the opponent of odds, you never truly know what's going to happen. You might get lucky. You might get
misplaced.
extremely unlucky. Let's start with our initial goal. How difficult
Oh, wow.
is it to fish up 100 Dragonair
You
in the Safari
cast.
Zone? By finding 100
It's
of
a
these
hero.
things, it will bring us to that 10,000 number.
I mean,
That
sure.
will hopefully reap our reward. Welcome to the journey of obtaining the Dragon Fang, the rarest item in Pokemon history.
Pop power.
Oh, fuck's sake. That one I genuinely messed up. Green one is always better. the gauntlets. And I probably should play the Easter one.
As the journey began, we slowly started to realize that while Dragonair is 1%, that doesn't mean you're guaranteed to find one within 100 fishing encounters.
Look, I have
Sometimes it takes 200, 300, 400, even 500 Pokemon before Dragonair would finally show up. Seeing each one was like finding a shiny Pokemon in itself,
get the
only
equivalent
for it
down.
to flee on the very first turn.
Through some bait and flag.
When a Dragonair finally
This
hit
is
the bait,
first.
an incredible race began. Your 8% chance to catch each ball versus its 10% chance of fleeing. A battle you just as often.
I'll get that too, don't worry.
It was incredibly demoralizing once you're hunting for a Dragonair for 45 minutes, only for it to immediately flee. Once you do finally catch one, it's always victory. As you retire and head back to the PC to check if it had the Fang, it's heart racing every single time. But over and over, we came with tails. We lost.
Fled! Immediately fled! No! Great. Fled.
Nice.
Yeah!
That was fairly easy.
No!
Okay, plan?
2, 3.
Yes, boss.
No! Fled.
But sometimes, odds have other plans for you.
We got the shiny. Oh my god. I think ball, right? Bait? Is it the same as
Rust. What we have learned.
No!
god?
Rematch.
Nice.
Dude. Oh, jeez.
Once we reached nearly 100 Dragonairs seen, far past the 10,000 encounters, we've realized this is going to take much longer than we ever could have imagined. But this far in, there's no going back, as the number of
Keeps the dress code very strict down there in Tartarus.
Dragonairs grew higher and higher, so did the hours of the night. Until the sun of the morning came out. Suddenly, we'd been up all night. It was now 2 p.m., 120 Dragonairs. No Fang in sight. Encounters nearly 20,000. This is brutal.
After 3 days straight, staying up all night, watching
Oh
the
my
sun
god,
rise
this
as
is literally
Dragonairs
stretching this, bro.
flee, we started
The
losing
heck?
track of time. Suddenly,
That was the
it was
easiest I've
December
ever had
23rd,
this boss.
and Christmas was approaching. But at this point, we didn't really care.
How the
All we
fuck?
wanted was to find the Dragon Fang. We had almost given up. In fact, we had finally fell asleep. But even in slumber, the hunt for the Dragonair took hold of our minds. We woke up the following day, around 2 p.m., and it was Christmas Eve.
Probably no Dragon Fang.
Really? I didn't know that her eyes
Before we had our first coffee
move.
and to talk about how we were feeling. We started to doubt the possibility of us even getting the item at all. We were so delirious at this point because our minds lived and breathed in the Safari Zone.
And I guess this is the only one I
We
can
even
really
questioned
picture.
if this video was going to be good, whether it would be made at all, if we could even find this damn thing. After a long, honest conversation, we got a boost of energy and decided to do one last push.
With the army dash, this one actually. Oh, that's good.
Dragon!
Cheers.
Kinda cool.
No, I ran! Oh my god!
Another boss, so I don't know. I'll just take the right field. Yep. You?
Splitters.
I'm surprised I haven't gotten the mini carts yet. They're the most dangerous in fact.
Please, bro, please, yes, bro, no. No, dude.
Must be the last of them.
Hey,
Dude, 19. Oh my god.
wow. It kind of was
That wasn't.
unnecessarily
Dude, you're not even gonna believe that. Was that a different level?
Hermes versus
my
Patroclus.
God.
I mean, I have
What
all
the
my
fuck?
guys, so
J-Ball, let's hope so, baby. Don't please. Come on, bro.
I guess I don't believe this, but
Come on.
yes.
Fuck. No!
Hold on, Shiny, before we get the dragon thing. That's... Oh my
Come on
god,
now.
fucking shiny ball. Dude, green shiny before a fucking dragon thing. 1, 2, 3. Great.
Oh, wow.
Okay, awesome. Now give me the dragon face.
Dude.
Let's see, I have to get this.
As the sun came down, we realized we hadn't left the room in hours. Finn went downstairs to get some snacks and cigarettes.
Tidying up a bit.
I almost joined him, but I said I wanted to see one more dragon before I took a break. As much as this hunt pained us, I will say, it was fucking addicting. Somehow, as I was laying there by myself, with a racing mind of still, patient and stressed all at once, Finn walked in the door with a Christmas Eve surprise.
21.
Zeus?
Come on, baby.
And this happened.
Press remark from you. How shocking that the
221, 221, 221.
Words from me.
221, 221, bro. 221. 221.
That's cool.
221.
But
I'm catching a dragon there. I don't care about Christmas.
you deal or take damage. That is insanely
All I
10%
want
even
for
then.
Christmas is the dragon fang, Santa.
There it is.
Good fun.
221, this is
This
it.
is also
dragon
good.
fang, all I want for
There's have super next attack.
Santa, go away.
Self-inflicts like
Don't you want to
Near
see
by
what
force, no.
Santa's got in his Santa bag?
Is it a dragon fang?
No.
Then I don't want it, Santa. How do we know, Santa?
Yeah.
What if it's not Santa?
I made
sure all the
sure
dialogue I
this
could say
year
only
for
makes
you.
sense.
Here's the
Oh, you did?
You've been a good boy on my good list.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
let's just find out, Santa.
Oh.
Oh, Santa.
Oh, the lights changed this time.
Here it is. Your dragon bag.
It's
You were
actually.
such a good boy this year.
You only have to because of me. So the punishment you're earned. So drop the act.
That's crazy.
So there it is. We still can't believe we found it. We still can't believe Finn called it right before it happened. As he brought up a celebration of food, drinks, and cigarettes, the timing
hell
couldn't
no.
be more perfect. We sat together in shock, with fulfillment and exhaustion. We sat together in silence and enjoyed our time, feeling like victors.
Hey. Hey, hell no.
It was Christmas Day.
Hell no.
We were both so relieved to finally be done with the Dragon Fang. And honestly, I think we had both completely forgotten about it. We sat by the Christmas tree on the second floor of our hotel, right beside KFC, and we shared gifts. We lived in that moment and enjoyed our Christmas away from home. We even shared gifts with our friends around town. It was the perfect end to a journey we will never forget. A Dragon Fang Christmas. It's now months later, and I think we still both remember those restless nights. I don't think either of us think about the Dragon Fang very much these days, and I think it's better that way. Because it was never about obtaining the rarest item in Pokemon. It was the things that happened along the way. Does the destination truly matter? No. I think it's always been about the journey.
Cheers.
Thank you, Gus.
About to let you down by Shaggy.
Exactly. Oh, that's a special Raidu there. Because he's the one that's betting for us instead. I mean, I sure hope so.
Merry Christmas from Blue Boy Finn. We hope you enjoyed watching us get the Dragon Fang.
A very Merry Christmas from Blue Boy Finn to you.
Our family to yours. Have a happy holidays. And
Yeah,
thanks for watching.
As always. Oh, oh, oh.
God damn it.
Unless somebody says, we'll pay you lots of money not to, and then I'll be like a fucking shot with whatever that new brand is.
Right, let's begin.
Next show, I'm going to have a massive Eventar shirt.
Let's watch this.
I remember the laps before the finish, before you win your first race. The last few laps go on forever. That's what they say. You hear different things and worried that you're gonna have a failure. For me, I didn't want it to end. It was the best feeling, you know, leading a race by I think it was 30 seconds. I loved every moment. I remember those laps vividly because it meant so much. You know, I was just about to achieve something I, you know, set out to do at 8 years old.
Welcome everybody to this week's F1 Beyond the Grid. I am delighted to say that we're joined by 2009 World Champion Jenson Button. JB,
thank you.
Great to have you on the show again. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, it's been a few years, hasn't it?
It has. Now,
Jenson
talking
looks
of years,
older
we all have
than
an
this guy.
anniversary, right? It's 20 years, would you believe it, since that first win. Hungary 2006. Look, when you think of that weekend, let's start with this. What is the overriding memory?
Oh, the emotions, yeah. I mean, it went from qualifying fourth, getting a 10-place grid penalty because we had an engine failure, starting near the back, so in 14th with Fernando and Michael because they both got penalties in qualifying for overtaking under a yellow flag. So we're all at the back and fighting our way through. So did I think it was going to end up with a victory? No, definitely not from where we were. But it had everything, that race. You know, a lot of action, started wet, it dried out. I made a move on Michael into turn one, which kind of was a win for me anyway, before I actually got the victory. Anytime you could put one over on Michael Schumacher was impressive, and I enjoyed it very much. And yeah, so
it's nice to know that
so
it
much
like helps here. But
relief also.
so funny is fucking Aphrodite and Zeus team up, which helps my Athena's ability of getting my dodge. So in a way, I do get the dodge deflect that I wanted. It's not exactly that I wanted.
It's been 113 races that I've had in Formula One, and I hadn't won yet.
Yeah.
Can we start with the background? Right? I mean, on the subject of not winning,
No,
You'd come close. You'd had a stack of podiums, 10 in 2004 alone. Had you got to the point where you're thinking, is this ever going to happen?
Yeah, definitely. I was at that point. 2004 was an amazing year, as you said. 10 podiums. The first one came, and then it's like I couldn't do anything wrong that year. I was always on the podium. Pole position in Imola in front of Michael in the Ferrari, which is pretty special. But yeah, the elusive win just wasn't there. And 2005, obviously, we had our own issues with missing a few races. Yeah, it was getting a little bit painful because the team were great, but to challenge Ferrari at that time was really difficult. And then Renault appeared from nowhere, competitive with Fernando Alonso, and those two were fighting. We were like the team behind. We were the team in third in the constructors, and it was getting a little bit frustrating. So that win kind of opened it up a little bit for the whole team. From that point onwards until the end of the season, I scored more points than the other driver.
35. I was going to say that. On the topic of Ferrari, Rubens Barrichello has come to BAL Honda's it was. Just what did Rubens bring the team that it hadn't had before? And had it felt like a one-car team before and suddenly it became two?
It's funny, I've been asked this question many times in terms of who's the driver that you feel was the best at engineering, and by far it was Rubens. At working with a team, developing a car, understanding what a car is doing out on track, and feeding that information back, but also just understanding what to do with the car, not just letting the engineer get on with it. And that's what he was really impressive at. And I understand why Michael wanted him as a teammate for so many years. And I was lucky enough to have that when we started racing together, and I could really see the skill set that he had that I never knew existed.
And a winner's mentality. I mean, did he explain why Ferrari had been so successful, and were you able to make changes within the team?
I wouldn't say so much in, a winning mentality, but also elusive win just wasn't there. And 2005, obviously, we had our own issues with missing a few races. Yeah, it was getting a little bit painful because the team were great, but to challenge Ferrari at that time was really difficult. And then Renault appeared from nowhere, competitive with Fernando Alonso, and those two were fighting. We were like the team behind. We were the team in third in the constructors, and it was getting a little bit frustrating. So that win kind of opened it up a little bit for the whole team. From that point onwards until the end of the season, I scored more points than
all
the other
three
drivers.
places and only got once this time.
On the topic of Ferrari, Rubens Barrichello had come to BAL Honda as it was that year. Just what did Rubens bring the team that it hadn't had before? And had it felt like a one-car team before and suddenly it became two?
It's funny, I've been asked this question many times in terms of who's the driver that you feel was the best at engineering, and by far it was Rubens. At working with a team, developing a car, understanding what a car is doing out on track, and feeding that information back, but also just understanding what to do with the car, not just letting the engineer get on with it. And that's what he was really impressive at. And I understand why Michael wanted him as a teammate for so many years. And I was lucky enough to have that when we started racing together, and I could really see the skill set that he had that I never knew existed.
And a winner's mentality. I mean, did he explain why Ferrari had been so successful, and were you able to make changes within the team?
I wouldn't say so much in, a winning mentality. I mean, we all want to win. We're all doing as much as we can to win. These aren't amateur teams going up against Ferrari. This is hundreds of people and with a lot of experience in the sport. So I think the mentality was always there to be winning. It's just we didn't quite have the package to do that. But I think having feedback from two drivers with experience was really important. And obviously, they're going to listen to Rubens quite a lot because he's come from Ferrari and he's worked alongside Michael.
Okay, so that's the background. Let's talk about the track now, the Hungaroring, and you actually won there twice in quirky little track, feels like a sort of overgrown kart track. Was it a track you liked racing?
It was a tough track to race on. If the conditions were dry, overtaking was quite difficult. It was like a Monaco without the barriers, you know. So you could take more risks. You could make mistakes and get away with it, unlike Monaco. But I really enjoyed it. You know, it was a fun track to drive. In mixed conditions, it was awesome. You know, because you could put it around the outside at turn 2. Other places like turn 5, you could drive around the outside.
I hate how much I lost bro for that.
It was a real mixed up race. Lots of opportunities in those conditions. We were also on Michelin tires at the time, and the Ferraris were on Bridgestones, which definitely helped us in those wet conditions.
What did you need from your car to be quick? Because actually the RA106 had been a little bit inconsistent at the opening of the 2006 season. Was it good in tight and twisty, or was it
quicker corners? Yeah, and you needed a car that was good in quick corners in Hungary. I mean, it sounds strange, right? Because it looks so slow, but it's not. You're still unbelievably quick in most corners in Budapest, and you know, the last sector especially. You know, you needed a good front end. It was never my strong point to have a car that had too much of a pointy front end, because I didn't like oversteer that much. But it was a car that you could, as you added steering lock, it was like the dream. You got more front grip. Whereas a lot of racing cars, you get to a point and it washes out. So it was a really nice car to drive. The last corner, I just remember being frustrating in that car because it wasn't quite quick enough for the aero to be working well. So you'd always just go in there and just throw in on loads of steering lock and understeers. That's where we lost time. But most of the track, we were pretty strong.
What, you hit the ground running, actually. Anthony Davidson, the third driver, reserve driver. I can't even remember, but we had the Friday drivers in those days. He was, P2 on Friday morning in first practice, and then you and Rubens lock out the second row of the grid in qualifying before the grid penalty that you mentioned. So did the car felt good from the moment you put it on track that weekend?
Yeah, and you know, when you look back now, it's hilarious because it was just the norm, you know, the way the cars looked, sounded. But you know, that V10, when I watch videos back, just blows my mind. The screaming. How does an engine produce that noise? It was pretty phenomenal, and you know, to have raced in that era, I feel very, very, very lucky, very privileged. But from the word go, it felt good, and then it didn't, because we had an engine failure. I remember it was after turn 4. The quick left-hander, I had to pull over to the left, and the smoke billowing out the back of the car, and that was it. I was like, then grid place penalty.
But tell us what you were thinking on race morning. You rip open the curtains, and we're seeing it's the first wet Hungarian Grand Prix ever. Did you start to believe at that point?
No. No, not starting 14th. It never happened. You know, I'd never won a race before, and I'd started on pole. So, no, definitely not.
You'd even started on pole earlier in the year in Australia as well.
Yeah. And then stopped just before the line with the same issue as we had in testing at Hungary.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely didn't. But I knew it was going to be more interesting. And the exciting thing for me was that we had the two championship rivals starting behind me or around me at that time. So I knew it was going to be a big fight through the field, and it definitely was that. You know, when I watch it back and I see the fight between Michael and Fernando as well.
I have the 95.
Talk about the decision about what tyres to start with. Because you started on Inters from people, and your teammate Rubens is on full wets and third on the grid. The briefing before the race, I mean, why so different?
I don't remember why Rubens was on wets. I mean, most of the time in F1, as we've experienced, you don't ever want to be on a wet tyre. The only reason why you've done a wet tyre is because it's too wet to drive on the track. You know, so you'd be behind the safety car. As soon as the safety car comes in, you want to be on an Inter because they just they get eaten up so quickly a wet tyre, and the blocks move around so much. Whereas the Inter tyre it just worked in those conditions. It wasn't a lot of standing water, enough to be wet, but not rivers where you needed a wet tyre.
Quick word on the tyre wall. You already mentioned that it was that race weekend was you wanted to be on the Michelins and not the Bridgestones. But did you enjoy the tyre wall era of Formula One?
I did, and you know I experienced that later on in my career in Super GT as well. For me, it's such an exciting part of racing because it's tyre manufacturers going at it as well, and they're obviously trying to produce not just a safe
Yeah, they
tyre
do.
like we have in Formula One now, but also they were pushing the
I see.
boundaries a lot more with trying to be better than the other tyre supplier. You know, what we have now is great because we have the different levels of softness that we have, and we can play around with them all around the world for different types of tracks. But back then, it was like they would bring whatever they thought would work for that track, and the lap times were extraordinary, you know. And then 2005 happened, and the year before 2005, we used one tyre for the whole race. And we did it. You know, it was a problem if you locked up.
And they were grooved.
And they worked. It was just amazing. But yeah, so I really enjoyed the tyre war. But, you know, all good things come to an end. You know, and I respect the way that we have it now in Formula One as well.
What about refueling? It was a refueling era as well, wasn't it?
I love that part of it, you know, because you could have different strategies. You could run different strategies on fuel. So you could even start the race on half tanks if you wanted to have a lightning first stint, and you'd never be at full tanks because you could do a 2-stop race, and you're never at full tanks. So if your car didn't work as a heavy car with the fuel moving, you just run a lower fuel level and just do more stops. Also in qualifying them, we had fuel on board. You remember? So it was declared after qualifying how much fuel we had on board for the race start.
Guessing, weren't they? Oh, how much?
Yeah, so it was fun. I enjoyed that, and it left more. It was more opportunity for people that weren't in the best car, I think.
This episode is sponsored by Saily. One of the things I love about making this show is that it takes me all over the world to sit down with some fascinating people from Formula One. Of course, that also means there's always another interview to prepare, more research to do, and checking in with my family back home. And quite often I'm doing all of that while traveling between different countries, which means I rely a huge amount on having a solid data connection wherever I am. But you don't have to travel as much as I do
Oh, it's
to
quite
appreciate
easy.
how useful that
Didn't
is.
get
Whether
the-
you're heading away on holiday, traveling for work, or just
very
trying to
easy.
avoid expensive roaming charges, Saily makes it easy to get online
I'll see
whenever
it.
you need it.
Yeah,
Saily is an
someone-
eSIM app from the creators of NordVPN that gives you affordable mobile data in over 200 destinations.
We need
So
the
instead of
weakness.
worrying about roaming charges or trying to find a local SIM card when you
but
arrive,
it does
you can just
increase it.
connect straight away. It also includes built-in security features like a VPN and ad blocking, which helps protect your browsing and can even reduce mobile data usage by stopping ads from loading. What I really like is that you only need to install the eSIM once. After that, you can travel between countries and stay connected simply by adding a new data plan. And if you travel a lot, they also offer the Saily Ultra plan, which includes extra perks like airport lounge access, fast track
yeah, should have
services,
said.
and priority support. So download the Saily app in your app store, use the code GRID at checkout to get 15% off your first purchase.
Should come in useful.
This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. You might have heard me mention that I recently trained for the London Marathon, which I'm very pleased to say I managed to finish, and congratulations to everyone else who completed it too. Liquid IV's hydration multiplier sugar-free sachets were really helpful during my training, thanks to its optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins and nutrients. And now that I've got the marathon bug and we're heading into the warmer summer months, I know staying properly hydrated is only going to become even more important if I want to keep at it and keep my energy levels up on longer runs. And no matter what sun-drenched activities get you moving, you need to stay hydrated when things heat up. Liquid IV delivers longer-lasting hydration than water alone. And right now, you can get 20% off your first order with the code GRID at checkout. And what I really like is how convenient it is. The sachets are easy to take with you, whether that's in a gym bag, a backpack, or even your pocket. And just one stick, mixed in 16 ounces of water, can keep you hydrated for up to 4 hours. I've been alternating between the orange vanilla and white peach flavors recently, but there are loads of sugar-free options to choose from, so why not mix it up a little? Get moving with superior hydration from Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first purchase with the code GRID at checkout. That's 20% off your first purchase with the code GRID at liquidiv.com. Right, back to the race. We get underway. You immediately start flying. That first thing was great. I think you overtook Massa Fisichella.
Oh, I actually beat him before.
Yeah, it was good.
So you immediately got a tune out of the car. I've asked you this before, I'm going to ask you again. At what point in the race did you start to think something special might be on?
Definitely, I would say towards the end of that stint, you know, before we put the, I think we went to dry tires on the first stop.
No, I wanted to win without dying,
because
bro.
the pace was really good on the wets, on the inters,
Yes.
and you know I could see myself coming through the field, and they were giving me lap times of Fernando as well, and I was like, we're quicker, this is great. And then when we put the dry tires on, the pace was really strong. Yeah. And at that moment, I thought, yeah, I actually thought it was on before it was on. You know what I mean? At that moment, I was like, we're going to win this. I didn't realize the offset that we had with Fernando with pit stops. I thought it was a walk in the park. And then I was like, oh, no, actually, Fernando's in front. And then he had his wheel nut fall off in turn 2. And
did you just see that, or did you just come after the boss fight ended, bro? I swear to God. You can tell me you came after the boss fight ended.
We had the pace to catch him.
It's like the saddest thing ever.
Is another thing always in F1.
Literally,
with the way the track was, drying track, it's always difficult to put your.
Hey, nice! I can upgrade another weapon to run with.
You got force and error from the guy in front.
How did your race engineer and
I wasn't even listening to this guy.
the news?
Off, we give wets.
20% off first. Get underway. You immediately start flying, actually. That first stint was great. Yeah, I think you overtook Massa Fisichella Schumacher in the space of 2 laps.
Yeah, it was good.
So you immediately got a tune out of the car. I've asked you this before, I'm going to ask you again. At what point in the race did you start to think something special might be on?
Definitely, I would say towards the end of that stint. You know, before we put the dry tires on the first stop. It was around that time because the pace was really good on the wets, on the inters. I could see myself coming through the field, and they were giving me lap times of Fernando as well. And I was like, we're quicker, this is great. And then when we put the dry tires on, the pace was really strong. Yeah. And at that moment, I thought, yeah, I actually thought it was on before it was on. You know what I mean? At that moment, I was like, we're going to win this. I didn't realize the offset that we had with Fernando with pit stops. I thought it was a walk in the park. And then I was like, oh, no, actually, Fernando's in front. And then he had his wheel nut fall off in turn 2. And life was made a lot easier for me. I didn't have to challenge him. But
do you think you had the pace to pass him if he kept going?
Passing him, I don't know. But we had the pace to catch him. But passing is another thing always in F1. And with the way the track was, you know, drying track, it's always difficult to put put it on the wet patches to overtake. So you got force and error from the guy. I love
those guys.
How did your race engineer Andrew Shovlin break the news that Fernando was out? Was he very calm, or was he like, JB, you're not going to believe this?
It wouldn't have been calm. It would have been unbelievably excited. You know, when you've never achieved something and you think you might be able to, everything changes, you know. And even though we're British and we don't like showing too much emotion, Shovers did. And I really love that about him. And that's why we work so well together. So, yeah, I mean, it would have been proper excited, definitely. I didn't even know that I was racing Fernando at that point, so I thought I was in the lead anyway.
Oh, well. You crossed the line. You've won your first race. Do those, 20 years on, how vividly do
Fastest was obviously the turns because I like that one.
I remember the laps before the finish.
15 would be nice one.
Because people always, before you win your first race, the last few laps go on forever. That's what they say. And you hear different things and worried that you're going to have a failure. For me, I didn't want it to end. It was the best feeling, leading a race by, I think it was 30 seconds.
Tempt me, bro.
I asked the team, is everything okay? A couple of times with the car.
Tempt
like, yeah.
me.
just keep doing what you're doing. And I loved every moment. I remember those laps vividly because it meant so much. I was just about to achieve something that I set out to do at 8 years old.
No way.
And then I caught the Honda Junior team, which was Super Aguri. I remember that on the last lap I called up to them. I was like, oh, this would be nice. We can cross the line together when they're a lap down or 2 laps down. But that would be nice for Honda. But he couldn't keep up. So
and you weren't slowing down.
I wasn't slowing down. In that moment, you start backing off. Your concentration goes. You don't want to be messing with that. You got to keep focused. You might not be 100%, but it's 99%.
And JB, it was an incredible podium of firsts, actually. So your first win, it was the team's first win. It was De La Rosa's first podium. Heidfelder Gibbons, BMW Sauber, their first podium as well. Can you remember what was said? Or when in that moment, is it just all about you?
No, there was a lot of emotion on the podium. I think probably I noticed it more from Pedro. There's a lot of photos of us hugging, a lot, and staring into each other's eyes. It was his first podium, and it was his last in Formula One. It was his one and only. So I spoke to him yesterday about it actually, and as it's the anniversary,
I should have given that
he was like,
first.
you don't understand how emotional it was for me as well, being up there, given this opportunity to go and race for McLaren after Juan Pablo was moved aside. So yeah, it was a lot of emotion up there, and I think for the first win to be Hungaroring with that beautiful trophy, I think that means a little bit more. I know it's the first win, but I think because of the trophy and the effort and dedication that goes into designing that trophy and building it.
Wow, that's a nice trophy.
Extra bit more.
How did you celebrate?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
it's
I
nice,
had to go straight to China because I had a sponsor event in China. So yeah, I had a couple of beers at the track, jumped on a private plane which took us to a bigger airport, which then I flew to China and did an event on a it's not a gondola, but it was like a gondola on the water, and I was like, this is so
it's
random.
Quite random.
Yeah. And then obviously got the call from Big Boss at Honda.
Nice.
You've just won our first race in 40 years. Can you come to Japan? I'm like, all right. Here we go.
While you're in the region.
Yeah, here it goes.
It's luck.
It was like being up there, given this opportunity to go and race for McLaren after Juan Pablo was moved aside. So yeah, it was a lot of emotion up there, and I think for the first win to be Hungaroring with that beautiful trophy, I think that means a little bit more. I know it's the first win, but I think because of the trophy and the effort and dedication that goes into designing that trophy and building it, it means extra.
Man, there's something here.
How did you celebrate?
Need to go to Nick's.
Yeah, I had to go straight to China because I had a sponsor event in China. So yeah, I had a couple of beers at the track, jumped on a private plane which took us to a bigger airport, which then I flew to China and
What's
did
the
an
point
event
of this? I thought I saw him.
It's not a gondola, but it was like a gondola on the water, and I was like, this is so
it's
random.
Quite random.
Yeah. And then obviously got the call from Big Boss at Honda. You've just won our first race in 40 years. Can you come to Japan? I'm like, all right. Here it
While
goes.
you're in the region.
Yeah, here it goes. I arrived in Japan and went to the Honda R&D center. I remember walking in, and the corridor, it's a completely open plan office, and the corridor it feels like it's half a kilometer long. It feels like it's 500 meters long. I'm sure it's not.
Hit the limit.
But every single worker there came and stood by the middle corridor to clap me down, and it lasted like 20 minutes walking down there, and it was pretty awesome. There was so much emotion. They'd put so much into the team, and it had been a long time since Honda won as a manufacturer. So a lot of tears, and that added to my emotion as well. So it was actually the best way to kind of celebrate.
And that cemented your relationship with Honda, who you're still working with today, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's I've raced for Honda, obviously 2003 through to 2008, 15, 16, and then 17, 18, 19 in Super GT, and then I raced for them in the Daytona 24 where we got a podium.
Did you approach Turkey, the next race,
any differently? You know, they talk about the confidence you get from your first win. Did you feel any of that?
I think I was more relaxed. I was less tense.
Monkey off your back.
Yeah, I think that's the feeling that you have. You know, it's less tense. I'm not going to win the world championship, so let's go out and do as well as we can. I've won that race. I can take a few more risks now. You know, and it was probably some of the best races of my career. One, because I was so relaxed. You know, people talk about the Brawn season being my best year in F1. It wasn't, I don't think. And
when were you at your best, JB?
I think 2006 was a really good year for me. The second part of the season, and 2011, I would say, in McLaren.
The 2 years you won in Hungary.
They are the 2 years I won in Hungary, yes. My 114th Grand Prix and my 200th Grand Prix. Yeah, I remember.
2007 and 2008 were quite quiet years.
Difficult years. Really difficult.
Remember the Earth car and things like that. When did the foundations for 2009 start getting laid? When you look back, did it start in 2006 with that win in Hungary?
I would say maybe with Honda, but in terms of the UK base, no. I mean, we expected so much out of 2007, and it just was a disaster. It really was. You know, our junior team, Super Guri, had our 2006 car, so they were beating us. That car had won a race, and we were driving something that, you know, couldn't even get into the points with. So that was a tough year, and then it was more when Ross turned up at the end of 2007. That was the moment that, you know, it's like, oh, this is going to turn around, and that you felt the mood shift. You know, a team that had won a race suddenly was so bad in 2007. I think it needed that kickstart again for someone like Ross.
What did Ross bring?
I think just his presence, first of all, was enough. Just him walking into the room was enough. You know, I remember it was like assembly. We had the whole factory in one room, and nobody really knew that Ross was coming. And that's when it was announced, and he walked down the middle aisle, and there he was at the front, and he was our savior. He was the person that was going to come in and save us from the disastrous 2007.
JB, I'd love to know, look, can we explore this a bit more? What did Ross bring other than his presence? Was it a confidence? Was it a direction?
I think, I hadn't got to that bit yet.
Okay.
It wasn't just his presence, but that was already a kickstart. You know, that was a good kickstart for the team. But his leadership, his understanding of how a team needs to work together, getting rid of blame culture within a team, letting people be a bit more free within a team, and you know, come up with crazy ideas. And sometimes they don't work, but they've got to take risks, otherwise you're never going to get to the front. So it was a really good atmosphere when Ross was there. 2008 was made very difficult because we knew we were just concentrating on 2009. So 2008 was kind of like, there you go, have that. And it wasn't great. It was pretty bad. And I'd sort of mentally switched off at that point because I knew the year was going to be a disaster. I feel that Rubens probably did a better job in that situation than I did 2008. I was more already looking at 2009, and I was just going through the motions on race weekends because once you'd won, it felt, what am I doing here? You know, fighting for 13th, 14th on the grid, and it's not what I set out to do. So it was tough, and I think I gave up a bit too early that season when I look back now.
Did Ross make you a better racing driver?
I think his calm attitude was great, you know, on tough days. I don't think that anyone can make you a better racing driver. It's down to yourself to sort out your demons. You know, I think people can listen, and I think that's what you need to do as a leader. Listen to your driver's problems, but don't be too opinionated. You know, as drivers, we're flawed. We are insecure. And I'll go for any driver. You know, when I hear Lewis Hamilton on the radio last year, in the Ferrari, when he asks a question, they don't come back to him, and he's like, have I done something wrong? It's like, you're a 7-time world champion. You know, the confidence you should have is out of this world, but, you know, insecurities creep in. It's going to be a disaster. I feel that Rubens probably did a better job in that situation than I did 2008. I was more already looking at 2009, and I was just going through the motions on race weekends, because once you'd won, it felt, what am I doing here? You know, fighting for 13th, 14th on the grid, and it's not what I set out to do. So it was tough, and I think I gave up a bit too early that season when I look back now.
Did Ross make you a better racing driver?
I think his calm attitude was great, you know, on tough days.
I
don't really.
Oh.
I don't think that anyone can make you a better racing driver. It's down to yourself to sort out your demons.
Oh, that's good.
You know, I think people can listen, and I think that's what you need to do as a leader. Listen to your driver's problems, but don't be too opinionated. You know, as drivers, we're flawed. We are insecure. And I'll go for any driver. You know, when I hear Lewis Hamilton on the radio last year in the Ferrari, when he asks a question, they don't come back to him, and he's like, have I done something wrong? It's like, you're a 7-time world champion. You know, the confidence you should have is out of this world, but, you know, insecurities creep in. So I think listening to drivers and their issues is a big thing, I think, for leaders in a team.
Insecurities drive you on, I suppose, as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, you forget what you've achieved, and you just think about that last session. You're like, I'm not good enough. You know, I was 2 tenths behind my teammate. It's crazy, and the pressure you put yourself under, it's enormous, and that's why you see so many drivers fail in the sport, even though they have the talent. Mentally, they're just in a really dark place, and I've heard it from many drivers, and you know, we think of it as a weakness, so we don't talk about it. And that's what amazed me with Lando, you know, the way he's been outspoken over the last couple of years on mental health. Really, really good. And I think that gives you a lot of strength.
Do you think Michael Schumacher had those insecurities?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Because certainly the public persona was
exactly.
one of great confidence.
Course. Yeah. You know, when there's certain riders in MotoGP that I've thought, he comes across as a bit arrogant. But it's not. They just don't want to let anyone in. You know, they know they have insecurities and they don't want to let people in, which is the biggest issue, because then you never get over those insecurities.
Yeah. So, JB, your career, you experienced every emotion under the sun, didn't you, really? Highs and lows. So when you look at 2026, so we just end on the current year, who do you look at this year and go, they're like me? I can relate to that driver. He drives like me. His attitude is like me. If all the ducks align, he can win the world championship, even if he hasn't already. Who's that person?
It's a difficult question to ask. You know, we're all built so differently, and I'm not inside any of the drivers' heads. I think in my younger years, I would say probably Oscar. His driving style.
You were chilled. JB, I remember being at the showdown in, where were we? January 2000. It was you and Bruno Junqueira. Now I know the sort of innocence of youth, what you don't know, but I was bowled over at Barcelona then, just thinking, how can JB be so relaxed? His entire future rests on what we're doing now.
Yeah,
you know,
you go
Oscar-esque, I suppose.
Go from being a kid that likes racing cars to an F1 driver. Your world changes. Not just your career, but everything else in your world changes. So,
but very Oscar-esque, I think. Is
I think so. And the racing was what I was all about. You know, I wasn't bad at doing media and sponsor events, but it wasn't what I enjoyed. It was just the driving that I loved. And also, you know, in moments in my career, I wasn't there mentally. You know, I wasn't strong enough at certain moments, and I don't want to put that on Oscar, but you know, when you look at last year, there were moments in time that I felt that he wasn't able to get the best out of himself, and sometimes you do tighten up, and that was a weakness of mine. So, in 2009, it was in plain sight, and I don't mind talking about it because it's something that I worked on. So yeah, I think probably Oscar, and it's lovely to see him and his dedication and his focus, and he just wants to go racing. Very like Max as well. No, I'm not like Max in terms of I'm nowhere near as good as him, and also the way that he races is very different.
Do you think Max has the insecurity as well?
I still think there's, yes, I still think there's an insecurity there. Yeah.
Maybe that applies to all professional sport.
I think
not
it
just-
does. Yeah. And it comes down to you lose more than you win.
Darkness.
You know, I spoke to Roger Federer last year about sport and the mental side of it, and he said, "Yeah, well, you got to think I'm the most successful tennis player ever, and I lost 75% of my matches, and that's a great record. You know, in F1, I raced 300 Grand Prix, I won 15, so I lost 285 races."
Hang on, 50 podiums or whatever it was.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But talking about victories, so Lewis Hamilton, extraordinary what he's achieved, but he's still lost a lot more than he's won, and that is mentally why it's tough in any sport, because you lose more than you win.
JB, it's been such a joy to chat to you again and to relive that Hungary race. Thank you so much for your time.
Cheers, Tom.
Already? Okay, I haven't done this with this, so... Okay, then I'll just go back to...
Let's go, Coronaut.
Oh, it's way too easy.
So are you going to wear Fat Karting League branded t-shirts for every show as a...
Yeah, unless somebody says, we'll pay you lots of money not to, and then I'll be like a fucking shot with whatever that new brand is.
Right, let's begin.
Next show, I'm going to have a massive Eventar shirt.
Yeah. We'll just get bigger and bigger in the branding.
You wait.
Hats, gloves.
We'll know when Otmar's getting like some secret branded deal because he'll just be wearing bigger and bigger.
Eventar's coming.
You know, can I wear like... Because a lot of the t-shirts from that time are like cigarette branded. I can't wear them really, can I? Can't really be wearing like cigarette brands and getting all
I
over.
think you can.
I don't know.
Come on.
History.
Are you ready to start the episode?
Yes.
Well,
I
let's
thought
do
we
it then.
started. When you're getting it slightly out of hand, you need a slap. You need a slap from your colleagues. You know, I'm sure you've had that, Omar. I've had that. You need people to tell you, like...
Who would give you a slap?
You're being a dick.
He starts speaking in French to me. Well, I don't understand French. I said, Toto, can you tell me what he's saying? He said, are you Otmar Safnauer? Tell him, no.
Well, I'm sorry, but like your job, you know, if you're the race engineer, you have to be much, much better than that. You have to keep all of these guys on their toes, not the other way around.
Kimi Antonelli. Is he a good driver? Is he a great driver? Or is he a world champion driver?
You should like me so much.
Welcome to episode 4 of High Performance Racing. Thank you so much for the feedback. Thank you for the reactions. Thank you for the questions. We have a number of them in the show today. We are going to be talking about Kimi Antonelli. Is he a good driver? Is he a great driver? Or is he a world champion driver? And Rob is going to go deep on the secret to being a great race engineer. How do you feel being back for episode 4?
Very excited.
I'm excited by your bit of memorabilia. So we show a piece of memorabilia from the guys' careers at the end of each show. I mean, I wonder how quickly we'll run out of... Because you haven't got much in your house, have you? But you need to bring memorabilia to everyone.
I don't have a lot either. Just a few good things instead of... That's a good one.
That is really good.
That's a good one.
I was blown away when you brought that in.
Yeah. I brought it in on the tube.
Did you? Did they even stop you on the tube and say...
What is that? No, because I wrapped it in a T-shirt.
Did you?
Yeah.
We've been a week and a half without a Grand Prix. And still people are talking about Kimi Antonelli and George Russell after Miami. Can I ask you both, when I said at the beginning, is Kimi a good, a great, or a world-class driver? I'd love to know what you think, and I'd love to know why. And maybe from the amazing stellar careers that you had, whether there was a period where you saw someone similar where you're like, yeah, that guy's really gonna make it. There's something about them. What separates a world champion from a regular driver?
So, he's a great driver. He's not just a good driver. He's a great driver. George is a very, very good driver, and he can often get on terms with George this early in his career. So I think he's a great driver. Is he a world champion? That's too early to tell. It's way too early to tell. You can't. I mean, it's just there's so many things that he's missing. But in terms of talent, I mean, look at his rise essentially through the junior formula. You know, he always did very well. He always took a little bit of time to get on top of, and you know, the more powerful the car, like in F2, it took him a little bit of time to get there, but by the end he was excellent. It's been a little bit the same with Formula One. I think his personality is someone that he has to understand it. Like, he can't just be like told to do something and do it. I think if you observe him from the outside, he's one of those drivers that has to inanely understand something, and then he can do it.
Innately, not inanely.
Innately, sorry, innately. Yeah, so I think he is a great driver. I think he is a huge talent. Whether or not he can win world championships, don't know. You've got to wait and see. There's too many things that he hasn't done yet and doesn't know how to do.
Not wrong. I think he's great and has the potential to be, what was the other adjective you used?
Good, great, or a world champion.
He's got the...
World class.
World class, that was it. He's got the potential to be world class in time.
Totally.
So what does he need to add to his armor?
He's a teenager.
Yeah.
And with time, physiologically, he's going to get mentally stronger because all the different compartments and areas of your brain connect. And I'm not sure those connections can have a shortcut. I think it just takes time.
Experience.
So I think by the time he gets to 25, 26, you'll see an even better Kimi Antonelli. Now, George is a great driver, and two can become world champion. But Kimi, younger, less experienced, is a great driver.
Who do you think is the more talented, naturally talented driver of the two?
That's hard for me to say. You guess.
I think Kimi is probably the more naturally talented, but natural talent will only take you so far.
Is that because his first name is the same as another guy who had immense natural talent?
I wasn't linking them two things together, funnily enough. I think just like the way that he's always like been excellent in the junior series, and then he just has a huge amount of raw speed, right? He clearly has a lot of raw speed. Now, that's nowhere near enough to be a world-class driver. And I don't know, because I've observed George probably more closely from the outside as to his work ethic. George has a massive work ethic.
You would work with him at Williams?
We crossed over right at the very end. Right. Yeah, but he has a massive work ethic. I mean, don't forget, this is George who sent a PDF to Claire Williams, not a PDF, a PowerPoint presentation as to like why he should be the next race driver.
To Toto? Or to Claire?
No, he sent it to Claire. I saw it. It came to Williams.
He sent me the same.
Did he?
Yeah, and I invited him in. He came in with it to tell me why Force India should be hiring him as a race driver. We didn't have a spot. Contracted.
Yes.
But I remember calling Toto and saying, I like this kid.
So was he not on the Mercedes Young Driver program at that point?
He was.
But wasn't convinced that they were going to give him a seat in F1, so was looking around for other opportunities.
Right. They didn't.
Yeah.
He went to Williams.
Yeah, he needed to get, I mean, it's like, you know.
And we had Mercedes engines too, so he came to us.
Yeah, I think that was
it
the
was
two.
kind of like, I want to be on your radar.
He knew that, Mercedes, and in particular Toto, control only their cars. But there can be some conversations with the other Mercedes and
definitely
cars.
open up the doors for the other Mercedes, for sure.
And how often would a driver do what George has done there and directly come to team principal or directly send a PDF to Claire Williams?
I've never experienced that in my 28 years where a driver without a manager came in and said, hey, look at this presentation. Never.
Yeah.
Only George.
And what was in the presentation?
All
the reasons why he should be driving our car.
Yeah. He put all his stats together.
Was it the same for
it must have been exactly the same presentation.
Yeah.
So he sent it to Claire, and then Claire sent it on to me, Paddy Lowe, like other guys. And I kind of like, and Paddy said, "Oh, like, let me know what you think." Like, I don't know whether he actually read it in a great deal of detail. So I read it and I thought, like, a bit nerdy for a driver. But like, wow, like a lot of detail. He's really gone into this and he's really thinking about, you know, there was a little bit of, and George won't mind me saying this because it was a long, long time ago, there's a little bit of naivety in there as well. But presenting him like as a, how old would George have been then? Probably not yet 20.
I think 19.
19. So presenting himself for a 19-year-old like that. And like Otmar said, I've never seen that before or since.
But I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought, good on you.
So when we talk about the comparison between Kimi and George and the natural talent, it's not just that, right? George has like significantly more experience,
and he's won everything in the lower formulas too, George has.
and he was excellent in the lower formula. So significant amount of experience.
Okay.
Very, very fast. Went up against Lewis Hamilton and did very well against him. But now has like all of these, like connecting all the dots, what Otmar talked about, you know, that you just have to go through these experiences, whether you're a driver, an engineer, a team principal, or whatever, to kind of understand all of these things and connect them all up. And George has got all of that and works like incredibly hard. And I don't know how hard Kimi works. I'm not saying he works harder than George or less harder than George. I just don't know that. But George does have that clearly in his armour.
And what is the secret for Mercedes at this point to keep Kimi's feet on the ground, but also to keep him in the zone, to kind of make sure that he is primed for Canada, primed for the races that are coming up, not letting him get overawed? Because almost like the more he thinks about the fact he's leading the world title, I wonder whether like that can be worse for him at this age. He almost wants the races to become thick and fast, just keep driving, and we keep having these big gaps.
From what I could see in the paddock and being in the Mercedes hospitality when he's there, it seems like he's a grounded young man anyway. You know, his family are there with him. I don't know how old his sister is. My guess is 11, 12 in that region. You know, is respectful to his sister. And, you know, he is well brought up from what I can see. And I think that goes a long way to keep your feet on the ground. And he's got that.
You agree with that?
Yeah, of course.
I look at the way that team's set up, right? I think Toto Wolff is really nurturing and has really supported him and very publicly supported him. There's arguably even more pressure on George than there is on Kimi because everyone's expecting George to take that car to the World Cup because he's a more experienced driver. It's not a team that comes with like the politics of Ferrari or maybe even the scrutiny of McLaren after they won the world title last year. So it almost feels like they've created the perfect environment for Kimi Antonelli to thrive. And I was thinking actually on my way in today, like, you used to set the tone as the team principal. You used to nurture the drivers as an engineer. Like, what did you both do, or what memories have you got of trying to create the kind of the perfect Petri dish for your drivers or your driver to go?
Depends on the driver. They're all different.
For me, we talked about this last time. You got to treat them both equally and with due respect. So Rob was right. To treat them both equally, you set the rules of engagement together and before the season starts. Everyone knows what the expectations are, and everyone's agreed them. And if you do that, and you as a team follow those rules, that's it.
And what about stopping the drivers from getting either carried away, getting high on their own supply when things start going well, or being, on the opposite, overawed by the scrutiny that comes with the job?
That you do with how you treat them as a human. And just treat them as you would anybody else. Mm-hmm. And that comes from the ownership, the senior management, but the engineers too. You don't see them as, somebody that's on a pedestal. You are who you are. You got to work hard. We'll do this together.
I can use this.
Right? Max and GP. Perfect example of it.
Yeah.
Max, GP will tell them, focus on this. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, you need a strong group around you, right? It's very easy for you to come into Formula One as an 18, 19-year-old kid and your feet to get 6 inches off the ground before you've even got going. There's a huge amount of scrutiny, but there's also all of the nonsense that drivers suffer more than anyone else, like all the adulation, the false adulation, and all this, and nobody really like if you zoom out from that, the fans only know a version, a public version. They adore this public idol version of the real person. They don't know the real person, right? Most of the time, the real person, when they become famous, create a shell around them. They create this like different persona. And you can see that happening with drivers and famous people in general. But they still need that inner circle that keeps their feet on the ground. And like all colleagues, you've got to, like all good colleagues, I have to say, you've got to slap each other around a little bit when you're getting slightly out of hand. You need a slap. You need a slap from your colleagues. You know, I'm sure you've had that, Omar. I've had that. Yeah? You need people to tell you, like...
Who would give you a slap?
You're being a dick. Your colleagues. It can be your people that work for you. You can be people at the same level, people above you.
I remember Andy Green, my chief technical officer. I'm sure you worked with him.
Yeah, I know Andy, yeah.
Great guy. Force India. There's somebody, and our philosophy at Force India was,
change of scenery
because we were in the old Jordan factory, we had nothing.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was, and I was team principal, and he really pissed me off. Somebody did. And I'm like, and then my human instincts took over. We got to get rid of that guy. I don't want to see him again. And it was just me and Andy Green in the office, and Andy said to me, remember this, you got to make this a good place to work.
Yeah.
Have respect for your fellow employees. Don't forget that, just because you're the boss. And that's giving you a slap on the head from a guy that used to work for me.
Yeah.
And he did that, and he was right.
Yeah.
He was right. And you need that.
That's a good colleague. That's a good workmate. Right? And the drivers need that, especially young drivers. They definitely, because they just get a little bit confused, because there's, in motorsport terms, there is Formula One and then there's everything else. So they come into the biggest thing that you see with a rookie driver when they come into Formula One, that first weekend in Australia or wherever that first race is, it's just too fast for them. Not the cars, the weekend. Because it's relentless. They're not kind of doing, well, you've got your session on the morning, then you might talk in F2, then you might talk to your engineers for 10 minutes afterwards, which is pretty unstructured, and then you've got a session on the afternoon, and then you can go back to the hotel, right? Formula One is, you're in at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's bang, 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 bang. It's just all day, and then by the time you leave the circuit, you're going to an event, then you're going to a partner dinner, then you're doing something else. It's relentless, and young drivers, they can't keep up with it. It's so difficult for them because they've just never done it before. And all of a sudden they're in the spotlight. So you just need good people around you to help you with that.
You know, once I interviewed a driver who I shouldn't name at the end of the season, and I said to him, like, we're just going to have a chat about the season, like a review of the season conversation. And he went, I've spoken about the season all season, can we talk about something else? And I said, well, it's for the BBC's end of year review show, so we kind of we need to review the season on the review show.
I'm duty bound to ask you about.
I said, like, if that's okay, and he went, at least I'm getting paid. And I said, well,
by who?
I said, well, we're both getting paid, aren't we? It's my job. This is my job, and it's what's your job. He goes, no, you don't understand that. I'm getting paid. You're not getting paid.
Come get shot.
I thought, what?
What a nice guy.
So I said, you know what? Like, I don't think that's it. So I said, there's always a process with him. I said, you know what? When he wants to apologise for that political comment, great, we'll do the interview until then.
Good lad.
And that's rare for a journalist to do that, or a presenter to do that with the drivers, because there's a real power dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And actually, to give him his credit, a few minutes later, the driver came over and went, I'm really sorry, it was unacceptable.
Oh, that's good.
I didn't mean what I'd said.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
Yeah, but I can see how the world can do that to them, and there was no slight on him. Like, that's... Like,
you know what I would have said if I were you?
What the heck is wrong with that guy?
You're short, and money can't buy you height.
Was there ever a time you had to pull a driver up and say, look, you're losing yourself in this sport?
I never did. Nobody.
I don't think people ask me that one all the time. I think that if you are on that, because there's a Formula One team which is the inner circle, then there's the inner circle, right? Yeah. Of the people who, like, the driver is their colleague, right? I think within that, which is team principal, engineers, some elements of senior management, but definitely there's a few people who are like right on the inside of this maelstrom. And I think you just know the person too well. They wouldn't act as they would even in the wider team. They certainly wouldn't act like they would with, you know, in the outside paddock. You just got, you know, it would be a very short conversation. It'd be almost like somebody had come in with a head transplant. Do it, like, shut up, do your job.
I remember Paul di Resta wanting to leave Force India and go to Ferrari. Because, you know, he's Italian, although he's Scottish.
He was learning Italian, though, I remember that he was just taking Italian.
He was a great driver and would learn circuits very quickly. And there was a time that a little bit of that crept in just, I think, because he wanted Ferrari to see him at a higher level. So he could go.
What he kind of behaved like he thought a Ferrari driver would behave?
Behaved as if Force India wasn't the best place for him to be when he was there, and that was wrong. And I had to stop him doing that.
And how would it show itself?
In the press, you know, not saying the most positive things about the team he's in now. And it wasn't a criticism. It was more like, I'm better than this team. I should be looking elsewhere. So it was like an underhanded criticism, and we have to stop
It's
that.
kind of in a weird way, it's understandable, though, isn't it?
It is understandable, but still, you got to protect the team that you're in. Yeah. And when people sense that, then suddenly you don't get the best out of everyone, especially on that side of the garage, and you have to stop that.
And how did you stop it?
I had a chat with him.
One-way conversation.
Yeah, just a chat. It was really good. Talked to his dad, Louis. His dad was great.
Good guy, yeah.
Great guy. You know, his dad was afraid of flying. So there were some of the flyaways he wouldn't turn up.
Take care.
And then he went to have some therapy so he could fly. And it was, I think British Airways put it on. So you can go, not therapy, that's the wrong word, take classes to understand how airplanes work and, you know, why they're safer than cars and the whole thing. So he gets over that, and now he's coming to the flyaway races. And Andy Green tells him to watch air accident investigations.
That's good. Well done, Andy.
And then he went back to not flying again.
Flip.
I'll just keep this on.
Why would you do that?
Let's segue into our own greatest story of a Formula One flight. Because I think people that aren't in the sport don't realise that, obviously, there's a few private jets involved, but a lot of the time, everyone's on the same flights. You know, you fly to Australia and everyone's on those planes, going there, coming back. What flight would you like to take us all to?
So what used to happen on Studdy's flights, Paul Stoddard. So Paul Stoddard used to own that team there.
Minardi. For those who are listening, I'm wearing a Minardi Go
And
KL 2002 t-shirt.
Paul is a gregarious Australian. Made all his money buying and selling
Airplane parts.
And
airplane.
And then decided to waste all his money on a Formula One team. But as the best time doing it. He was basically like...
He was great, Stoddy.
Yeah, he was basically just another version of Eddie Jordan. So what used to happen was, when you used to take off, Studdy used to, Paul, who used to always be in like seat, like this was it was probably a 737. 737. So he would always sit in the front row, and then everybody else was kind of like dotted around the plane. We always used to take off from Coventry. This is when I was at Jordan. And Studdy used to get, so you know the little trays that they serve food on? So Studdy used to sit in, and his missus, he used to sit in the, and he used to get the air hostesses to do it as well. He used to sit near the front of the plane, near the cockpit, on a tray, facing backwards on takeoff. And then he used to kind of wedge himself in row A like that. So he's got his back to the plane, and the plane had takeoff.
This is a Formula One team owner.
This is a Formula One team owner. And when the plane took off, when it got to like this type of height, so it's at like maximum incidence, they all used to come down and like sled down to the back of the plane.
What, like as a one-off or every flight?
No, it was like basically every flight.
That's mad.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, if it's fun once, why wouldn't you do it every time?
If it's your plane and you own a Formula One team and you're Paul Stoddart, you do what you. Have you got a good one for us?
Formula One commission meeting, I don't know when it was, 4 or 5 years ago, and we finished the meeting, and
You
it's at
fucking
Geneva.
bitch.
It's
It's not that big of a
Formula
deal.
One
They
commission
literally
meeting,
half of the time
and you
it's
can
a
walk
town.
to the FIA offices from the airport and fly back out. And you never knew when they were going to end. So I used to book first flight in, last flight out, just so I had enough time. And we finish early, and Toto's there in his Bombardier. And you never know where Toto's flying to. I said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Oxford." I said, "Do you mind if I jump in with you so I don't have to wait another 4 hours in the airport before my flight goes?" He said, "Yeah, no problem." So he's in the private jet area. I'm following him. I hand over my passport, and the guy looks at it. He starts speaking in French to me. Well, I don't understand French. I said, "Toto, can you tell me what he's saying?" He said, "Were you driving a VW van on June 26th? I said, no, near Geneva. I said, no. Are you Otmar Safnauer? Tell him, no. So apparently I rented a car and just drove through Switzerland a bit to my friend's house that was actually living in France. I must have been speeding. 680 Swiss francs. Oof. Yeah, and they weren't going to let me out of the country until I paid it.
Wow.
Yeah. And guess how many Swiss francs I had? 0.
Well, of course, yeah.
Toto paid.
Yes! You won.
Toto paid.
Who do you think my flight story revolves around?
Eddie Jordan.
You shall pay
So
for
the
that.
BBC used to give Eddie and DC like money to fly to the races, like, and I just used to get on the BBC flights. So often I was either in premium or economy.
Oh my
and they were
God.
like, not.
These guys are fucking.
I get on the flight and I'm walking to the back of the crowd. I go to one of the races and Eddie goes, "Hey, fucking come here and sit down now." Next to him. You know the way. I said, "EJ, my seat's at the..." "Shut the fuck up. Sit down." And I'm like, "Oh." So I sit down and he goes, "Sit there and don't say fucking anything." So I sit there and people are getting on the plane and it starts to fill up. And I start thinking, hold on a minute, I'm gonna be flying in first class to Singapore or Australia or wherever. And then he looks at me and goes, "See, live like this and you get what you want." I said, "Okay, cheers, EJ." And then just as they close the doors, there's a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around. And whose seat am I in? Michael Schumacher. And he goes, "Sorry, can I..." I remember now, the stewardess comes over and goes, "Sorry, can I see your ticket, sir?" I'm like, and obviously, like, that part of the plane is full of all of the Formula 1 team bosses, Formula 1 drivers, like, full of the Formula 1, like, A-listers, and I'm very much not. So I'm like, yeah, here's my ticket. She goes, 47C.
47C!
Yeah, could you just go through the... And I was like, honestly, it was the walk of shame. And the best bit is I go, "Okay," and she goes, "I told you not to fucking sit here!" And I'm like, "No!" But that's it. Go on, have you got one?
So Eddie, and more Eddie than DC, not so much DC. I'm sure the BBC paid him to fly wherever.
Yeah.
But when he lands, right, and they probably gave him a little bit of money to get a taxi to the airport, to the hotel.
Oh my
He never
God.
wanted to spend that money.
Yeah, you're totally right. He'd sponge lifts off anyone.
Off
Save
anyone.
a few quid, yeah.
And after a while, because he knew Andy Stevenson very well, I'm like, "Steve, we gotta hide from Eddie. I don't want to drive him to his hotel." 'Cause
Oh my
often
God.
we were staying at different hotels, and he would want to go to his hotel first.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Standard Eddie.
So he would do this all the time. Matt Strachan was driving for us at Force India, leaving Spa. Okay? Big van. Eddie gets in the front seat. "You're driving me to the airport." So Strachan's, "Okay, we're in a van."
No one ever said no to him, though.
No.
Did they?
So he sees Alonso, and I think Alonso is driving at Ferrari at this time. Sees Alonso with a police escort out of the circle. Fucking follow him! Fucking follow him! So Strachan starts following the police escort, the Ferrari that Alonso's in. Fucking stay with him! Well, Alonso is going to some other private airfield where he's got his private jet, and they follow him the wrong way, not to Brussels.
Hey, I miss that guy. I remember once we were at Silverstone, and I was driving a golf buggy back to the TV paddock, and I had like my briefcase next to me, or like my laptop, everything in it. And he thought it'd be brilliant. You know how busy Silverstone is, like in the public area. He put his foot on my foot on the accelerator. And that's the sort of thing he'd do, and he wouldn't let go. And I'm yelling, get your foot off my foot. The golf buggy goes off. My laptop falls off the back.
Oh, no.
Yeah, at Silverstone with wallet, house keys. Is Eddie the kind of guy that lift his foot off and say, go and get your bags?
Yeah,
no. And I'm just trying to steer around members of the public, not kidding.
Just wanted to see what
but anyway, we could talk about him for hours. Listen, you mentioned about the importance of like looking after drivers, nurturing drivers, and this kind of the inner circle.
Yeah.
Which both of you were in. Can we talk about the role of the race engineer in this, particularly in this current climate where there's so much happening? One of the drivers left Miami and said, I think it was Oscar Piastri, he said, for the first time I was having to defend and attack in the middle of a Grand Prix, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think the drivers, it feels like they're getting really pushed to their capacity at the moment with the amount that they have to do.
Yeah, I didn't realize that, but that makes sense to me. So because the delta of when you don't have electrical energy is so big, you go from attacking to, I've run out, now defending. And this is probably a first, because usually you have the same power.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that, but I think Oscar's right.
I think one of the drivers was saying, like, someone was a second behind me and then got me.
Yeah,
and they said, I felt it was a really edgy move. And they said the next lap, I was the one a second behind. And I got them. Yeah. I did the same thing it's whole new territory.
Yeah, agreed.
And it just makes me wonder, like, the importance of the race engineer. And what I need. It's a world that is people just don't see. You know, they hear the odd radio message, like what it takes to be a great race engineer.
What does it take? I don't know whether you're talking to the right person.
Modesty.
So I think that, like, the role of the race engineer, I did it a long time ago now, right? So it's changed a lot since then. I kind of went through the period of me being a race engineer there was back in the late 90s, there was 3-4 of us on the car. Well, there was 2 of us on the car in terms of engineers. There was 6 guys on the car in total. And now there's, I went through a period where the ramp up to where we are now, it's changed a lot. And the race engineer has become much more a steward of information. So it's much more like, how to optimize the car. But now there's the vehicle dynamics team that will, they will optimize the car. The race engineer won't have that level of control anymore. Or let me say this: the majority of the race engineers won't have that. I think the old school ones. So in the last episode we talked about GP, who works with Max, Giampiero Lambiase. GP is a very old school engineer because he come through. So how long was GP at Force India? Maybe
years.
A lot of years, right?
Yeah. He was there when I got there. I think Colin Powers brought him up from F3 or something and stayed through my time before he went there.
There you go. So early 2000s, let's say. So he's one who's come through that period and still has control over the whole car. There's a lot who they're just kind of dropping into Formula One now, or they've done it since
I'm so angry. I'm
the explosion of people on the car. And they become much more a steward of information, like taking in the information and relaying it back to the driver in the right way. So I think it's different for different drivers. And even without that nuance of like the old school engineer and the newish type, like what is a great race engineer? He's someone who understands the driver and can optimize their position always. So whether or not it's in qualifying, whether or not it's in the race, you have to be, in my opinion, a good engineer, a good race engineer. You should have like very good knowledge of aerodynamics. You should have very good knowledge of tires. You should have very good knowledge of the mechanical systems on the car, and you should know how to optimize all of those things to make the car go fast. But then you should also understand how your driver operates. Not only what his driving style is, but also like what's the psychology of this person? They're an athlete, right? So you can't just like say, well, this is the best way to optimize the car according to the simulation. So this is what we're going to do. Because the guy who's driving it might go, yeah, but that doesn't suit me. I don't like that. That gives me too much understeer. It gives me too much oversteer, whatever it is. So you got to like be constantly in the head of the driver. And for me, it's also, you've also got to translate. Drivers are not engineers. They're not trained engineers. They don't have
Vettel.
Apart from people like, yeah, but he's
not
it's
trained,
a good point.
though, yeah.
No, he's not trained, but he's a hyper intelligent like human being.
What else we got?
In terms of academic skills, most of the drivers aren't. Most of the drivers have learned the vocabulary of racing cars through experience. So, and each one of them translates what the car is doing in a slightly different way. It's up to the race engineer to be able to translate that back into the team. So it's a two-way conversation. And I mean, you and I have talked about this before. I think there's good race engineers in Formula One now, and I think there's some pretty dreadful ones as well.
What do you think makes a dreadful one?
I think indecision makes a dreadful one. Like, you know, like not being, I think not being on top of your game and understanding from first principles those elements that I've just talked about, like tyre science, tyre dynamics, vehicle dynamics, aerodynamics. You've got to understand them. I don't want to say as good as an aerodynamicist or as good as the best like tyre scientists in the pit lane, but you've got to be able to have a conversation with them. You've got to understand 80% of what they understand. I think if you don't do that, you're dead in the water. What are you? You just repeat it. You know, you're the aerodynamicist, you tell me something. Maybe you're complete nonsense for making this car here behind me go faster, but I'm just going to repeat it and just go, yeah, let's do that.
You know when you're giving a driver like news on the radio, they don't want to lie. Fernando's faster than you, for example.
Yeah.
Do you think the race engineer should be delivering you as painful to the driver?
When it's something which is unusual and out of the blue, if I was sat in the middle of the pit wall and when I was at Williams, I used to sit in the middle of the pit wall and there was a bad news story for the driver, I would believe him. 100%. The engineer, you don't want to do anything that jeopardizes that relationship between the race engineer and his driver. You know, that is just territory you don't want to be in.
And there are times where that engineer-driver combination, both of them don't want to hear the bad news. Because you're competing against the other side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there should be
Would you be the guy that delivers that news? Or would you...
I delivered that news, especially, you know, you got to let her by. On this turn, blah, blah, blah. That would be the bad news.
Yep. And I think that's fair enough. You should never do anything, like I said, that jeopardizes that, because you've got the driver driving the car at 10 tenths. This guy who he knows is going to back him up 10 times out of 10, he knows he's got his back, and then all of a sudden he's delivering him a message which is not optimising his position. It's not the best for him. And then it starts to get is this guy with me? Is he not with me?
And the engineers sometimes will take his time delivering that bad news because he didn't want that bad news to be delivered either. You know, and then another lap goes by and you have to let her by, and another lap goes by.
Yeah.
So you got to have somebody else that's, I wouldn't say independent because we're all one team, but they're independent from the two driver and engineer teams.
And what do you think's changed then with the regulations now? Because I've thought in Canada, like, there's quite a lot of oversharing from the drivers at the moment because I think they're not able to process everything.
Oversharing in terms of the technical...
exactly what's happening with the car.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like you don't need to tell them all of that over the radio is a lot, it felt like to me.
I completely empathise with the driver here. They're in a situation they don't understand it. They need help, right? Now, as far as they're concerned, they're driving this like car which is difficult to drive, is difficult to understand. They're the one in the middle of all of this. They need help. They're going to get back on the wireless and shout, like, give me some help. So I
The
get
attack,
that.
I don't care.
And then
Any
it's
damage.
up to, it's up to the team to,
He taking out
especially the
Ganesh,
race engineer, to be able to get that situation under control. So a good race engineer
Yeah,
will get
very
that situation
sufficient.
under control very, very quickly. And it comes back again to what I talked about. It comes back, how well do you understand the car, right? How well do you understand the electronic systems of the car, the aerodynamics of the car, the vehicle dynamics of the car, right? Because you should be able to come back with 80% of the answer like that. And if you can't, you're not a very good race engineer. I'm just waiting for somebody. I'm in Miami, halfway around the world, and I'm waiting for somebody in Brackley or Silverstone or Maranello, some 22-year-old graduate, to come back and give me a number that I need. Well, I'm sorry, but your job, if you're the race engineer, you have to be much, much better than that. You have to keep all of these guys on their toes, not the other way around. And that's the bit that drives me mad, when it's like the driver asks a question and then it takes forever to come back with the answer. That to me is unacceptable.
Right, we're going to delve into your top 5 favourite ever Formula 1 liveries in honour of the Go KL Minardi t-shirt that I'm wearing. What have you gone for at number 5?
Number 5 is the 95 Benetton from Michael Schumacher's 95 Benetton. I think it was the B195. And I think I really loved the late 80s Benettons, but I just think that was such a great car. It was such a beautiful car, and it harked back to the colour schemes of the late 80s as well. So that is one of my favourite liveries.
Otmar, at 5th. Oh, you've gone for red 5.
I just think that's somebody once told me, I think it was Adrian, that fast cars are beautiful. Those fast cars. The thing I like about it is I always like that Canon and Camel livery together. I think there's a Labatt's on there as well. I think the Canadian.
There is a Canadian beer brand on that car.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've gone for the Williams in 5th. In 4th, which car did you go for?
In 4th position for me, I went for the Tyrrell 018.
Left field choice.
Left field choice. Now I have to come clean, and it's very aligned to what Otmar just said. As an engineer, the fastest cars are all beautiful, right? So I'm not a great livery man. However, I did ask, I'm going to have to name check my very creative friend Ferdy Porsche, who I asked this morning if he could help me out with some of the liveries, and he come up with that one, and I really love that the Tyrrell 18. I just think it's super simple. One of the things that annoys me, I'm going to go on a rant about modern day Formula 1 cars, and of course because it's a commercial, it's very commercialized now, but it's like the 18,000 brands all over the car, right? It just kind of, like, if you think about those early Red Bulls, it takes a little away. If you think about those early Red Bulls, which was just the Red Bull, right? It didn't have a load of garb all over it. And this harks back to that. You can see there's 2 sponsors on it, XP, Parcel Express. I wonder what happened
Probably
to them.
should save for the
and Camel. And I just think the black and the yellow is beautiful.
Yeah.
So thanks to Ferdy.
Otmar.
Yeah. Marlboro. I know we said maybe not cigarettes, but it is history. I think that's a beautiful car. Very much what you said, red and white, and not stuff all over it.
Yeah.
Driven by Anderson with sparks coming out from underneath the McLaren.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's a beautiful car.
Oh,
okay. That's
are you
in 4th place.
serious?
In 3rd place on Rob Smedley's list of the greatest liveries, you've gone for the Jordan 191.
I've gone for the Jordan 191 because...
Is that just an emotional decision, or...?
No, I think it is from how it looks, is an amazing looking car. It is absolutely beautiful.
Sure.
Just the lines on it. Gary Anderson designed that car. The lines on it, just look at it, how small it is as well, and it just looks great. And then that green, like with all the 7-Up, and that speaks to the heritage of Eddie and the team, and is that Michael driving it in that picture? I just think it's just, Is that Bertrand Gachot?
I don't know.
Whoever it is, it's someone. It's a driver. Number 32.
But it's the car that's cool.
But it's the car. It's just beautiful, right? And it just all works together, like the green and the 7-Up and the BP, Fuji Films. I think again, like as we talked about, there's very few. Talking about with the other cars, there's very few sponsors on there, which just make it look so clean and beautiful.
And in third place for Otmar.
Hey. Gary Anderson, Andrew Green, and Mark Smith.
Andy Green, there you go.
I like that you agree on one of these cars.
Mark
I'm
Smith,
so pleased it's that one.
Gearbox, Gary, chassis, aero, Green, all the suspension.
Yeah.
3 guys designed that car. Beautiful.
What's the second most beautiful livery of all time, in your opinion, Rob?
Well, this was a car that I worked on, which
one's that?
2004 Ferrari.
Yeah.
And that is, and again, just that particular version there doesn't have the full tobacco branding. And I know this is like, tobacco branding has now been outlawed and mandated against, but with the full Marlboro sponsorship on it, I thought it was even prettier. And I just think it was just such a cool car as well. We wrapped up, this was like at the time when we were kind of wrapping up World Championships in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
So this one we did it in Spa. And it was such a great car. And it just looked beautiful out of the box. There was just certain elements of it and the way that, the design team, not the car design team, but the design team who designed the livery, they just did such a great job. And you can see how good it was because it didn't hardly change. Every year at Ferrari, I used to see the liveries kind of like changing all throughout the years. We tried to get it right. This one just stayed the same all the year. It just looks great, like Ferrari great.
Stunning. In second place for you, Otmar. You've gone for one of your Force Indias. You've gone for the Pink Panther.
Couple things here. One, it's predominantly BWT. Their color is pink, so not a lot of, like you said, garbled up stuff on the car.
Yeah.
2, it won a race.
It did.
And 3, my claim to fame on that livery is BWT, if you can see it across the entire back of the car, that was meant to be on the side pod. And I went to them and said, look, we don't have a lot of other sponsors. Why don't we put it at a diagonal and just take up the whole back of the car? For
an additional fee.
It's never free. But that's the first time anyone's ever done that. Usually they're on the side pods.
Yes. Such a pretty looking car as well. And in first place, the most beautiful Formula One car.
MP44.
Yeah.
Yes, my choice was the 1988 McLaren. And it's just so iconic, right?
And simple.
And simple. There's nothing to it. You've got the much maligned tobacco sponsorship, which they basically did it so. It's so clever what they've done here from a design point of view. They made the whole car look like a fag packet. Which, not getting
got a strange attraction to cigarette branded vehicles.
Yeah.
If it's sponsored by a cigarette firm, I'm in.
Wait till you see my number 1.
Okay, Otmar's number 1 is
2 cigarette brands on one car.
What car is that?
That's the British American Racing 199.
First ever.
And the story here is brand new team.
What is this stuff?
British American Tobacco owns 50% of the team. One side of the garage was going to be blue 555, the entire car, and the other car was going to be Lucky Strike. And Bernie said, "No, boys, didn't you read the rules?
You can't have 2 different looking cars.
Can't have 2 different looking cars. They must look the same." And the solution was Lucky's on one side, 5's on the other, with a zipper in between. So if you look just above the 22, that's like a big zipper.
So cool.
Oh my god!
The first Formula One car to ever have a split livery, which was the second one.
Because
How did they get greedy?
No, there is that story where he sold. You know you'll know that story.
I can't remember the story.
Yeah, where he
I don't know if it's true, but I
he
love
had
the
two
story.
sponsors, and he needed to sell the full sponsorship of the whole car. So he sold both sponsors the full sponsorship, didn't he? And then put one on the inside of the track, one on the outside.
Yeah, he sold title to two different sponsors, but he painted one side of the car with the one sponsor and the other side with the other, and he put,
and then put them on one side of the track and one on the other. So they never saw the other side of the car.
Yeah, he put the sponsors on one side and then the other sponsors.
When was this? What car was this?
I think it was in testing, you know. I'm not sure whether it raced, that car.
I don't think it raced, but I heard the story.
It's a great story. There was one other car in the history
it's similar.
One other car in the history of F1 that's had one livery on one side and one on the other.
Give us a clue.
It's racing this season.
I need to give Ferdy a ring because he'll be watching.
The Cadillac. This season's Cadillac.
Oh, I didn't
Silver
know that.
one side, black on the other side, yeah.
I didn't realise that.
either. I was
You
just
guys
there.
aren't watching what happens towards the back of the pack.
No, I'm looking at what the car looks like.
Right, yeah.
And that's Villeneuve driving.
They're great cars. So no gorgeous John Player Lotus for either of you.
Oh yeah, that's a great car.
I would have gone
Yeah.
for that.
Well,
I would have
I
gone for the
mean,
Jordan 198 with the snake on the front. Like, it just was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't my favourite.
Yeah,
I think
I'm biased because that's my first ever car that I worked on.
Yeah. See, I'll go for the. Is that
But
the
there's a
MP423?
livery. There's a livery story to that.
Don't know.
You know what I mean?
I actually thought the Braun GP was a cracking looking car with nothing on it.
Nothing
apart-
except
just
for Virgin.
Exactly, and the fluorescent yellow.
Yeah.
I just thought it was cool. Well, I enjoyed that. We'll do some more top fives. But right now, it's time to reveal the memorabilia that you brought to the podcast, wrapped in a T-shirt on the tube, and the story behind it.
Here it is. A second place trophy from Azerbaijan.
Congratulations, Otmar.
Aston Martin's first ever Formula One podium finish and trophy.
Why is it not in the Aston Martin factory?
I bought an extra replica because it was the first trophy.
Okay.
And I gave that to Sebastian and kept his.
So that's the real thing.
It's a real thing. To my friend Otmar. Great, we got to share the way for a little bit. I loved it. Thanks. Love you, Sebastian.
That is cool.
This should have been a third place trophy. But at the restart, Lewis pressed the wrong button on his steering wheel and went off at turn 1. He was leading the race. And we snuck into second because of it.
Yeah.
And Lewis lost the world championship because of it. Not because of Latifi. Had he not pressed that button incorrectly, he would have won Baku, and that would have
given him the world championship.
Negated what happened in the last race.
Yeah.
Which never gets spoken about now.
Yeah.
So is that the original or is that the replica?
I can't tell. I'm pretty sure this is a replica.
Are you sure? Are you sure you didn't give Seb the replica and keep the
Pretty
real thing?
sure.
Okay. Well, it's stunning. It's beautiful. Thank you very much for bringing it in. We need to finish. We need to wrap up the show. We can't go without a couple jokes.
Had her concerns about Usa's propensity to overwork herself.
Do you want
Dogs.
long version or short?
No, we want the
long joke.
We'll take a long dad joke from you, please, Otmar, to finish off.
My first week at Alpine, Rebecca calls me. I'm working relatively late, and Alpine is out in Enstone, and I used to live in Woodstock for a year.
I don't have all the information.
And
and neither do you.
I had some friends in Woodstock, and Rebecca calls and says, "What do you want for dinner?" I said, now that I'm working for a French team, maybe we should try that escargot stuff. Snails. So she said, I don't know how to prepare snails, but one thing I know for sure is that they got to be fresh. So if you want snails tonight, you better get to the covered market in Oxford and buy them before it shuts. What time is the covered market shut? 7:30-ish?
give the whole exchange
Yeah.
another shot.
Call it 7:30. So I rushed there. I get the snails, and I get a phone call from a friend that lives in Woodstock, Mickey, saying, I'm at the Rose and Crown, not far from your house. What are you doing? I said, I just bought snails. Rebecca's at home reading the internet as to how to prepare them. He said, I need a bit of advice. Why don't you stop in the Rose and Crown? I said, I can't, Mickey. He said, look, just stop in for a half
I
pint.
never really know exactly where I stand with you.
Just need a bit of advice. So I stop in. Next thing you know,
half
pint.
Our relationship.
It's last orders. The bell rings. I'm still there.
Strange.
I thought,
How did that happen?
I can't believe it. So I remembered Rebecca waiting at home for these snails. It's 11 o'clock. I said, Mickey, I got to run. So I run home. I grab the snails out of the back, and they're in a bag, in a paper bag. And you've been to my house.
Yeah.
It got stuck on the gate. And the
One
bag.
sec, I'm not even listening to this.
I do. You know where to find me. And if not,
I see. Well then, the best that I can say for now is that I'm great.
W.
Achilles thinks that I'm the god of blood.
Not me talking.
Phone call from a friend that lives in Woodstock, Mickey, saying, I'm at the Rose and Crown,
Oh, don't mind me.
not far from your house. What are you doing? I said, I just bought snails. Rebecca's at home reading the internet as to how to prepare them. He said, I need a bit of advice. Why don't you stop in the Rose and Crown? I
Shades
said,
hang in there.
I can't, Mickey. He said, look, just stop in for a half pint. Just need a bit of advice. So I stop in. Next thing you know, half pint. It's last orders.
Half pint.
The bell rings. I'm still there.
Strange.
I thought,
How did that happen?
I can't believe it. So I remembered
How goes
Rebecca
the doling
waiting
out
at
of
home for these
invitations,
snails.
Zagreus?
It's 11 o'clock.
Have the Olympians been
I said, Mickey, I got to run. So I run home. I grab the snails out of the back, and they're in a bag, in a paper bag. And you've been to my house.
Yeah.
It got stuck on the gate, and the bag rips open, and all the snails are everywhere. And Rebecca opens the front door, turns the light on, face like thunder. And I bent over and I said, "Come on, boys, we're nearly home."
Did you really?
Yeah. Rip the snails out of the back, and they're in a bag, in a paper bag. And you've been to my house.
Yeah.
It got stuck on the gate, and the bag rips open, and all the snails are everywhere. And Rebecca opens the front door, turns the light on, face like thunder. And I bent over and I said, "Come on, boys, we're nearly home."
Did you really?
Yeah. And they're in a bag, in a paper bag. And you've been to my house.
Yeah.
It got stuck on the gate, and the bag rips open, and all the snails are everywhere. And Rebecca opens the front door, turns the light on, face like thunder. And I bent over and I said, "Come on, boys, we're nearly home."
I figured.
Did you really?
Yeah. They're so slow coming from the covered market.
Those snails, man. Why can they not speed up? Have you got one for us?
I'm not really prepped for this week. So, what? Like, this is a real dad joke.
Go on then.
I can't even remember it, but I'm gonna try it.
It's a great start to a joke.
What's red and green and makes a whizzing noise?
I don't know.
Kermit in a blender.
Oh! What's green and invisible?
Green and invisible.
Yeah. This cabbage. All right, well, we'll finish with a car-related one. 2 fish are in a tank. And one says to the other,
Anyone emerging from the pool of
do you know how to drive this thing?
That's not a one.
All right, awful, I know. Gents, thanks very much. We will get together again next week. We'll talk more about life in Formula One, and we will preview the Canadian Grand Prix. You're going.
I am going to. I reckon me and Otmar are going to tag team to all the
Most
Grand Prix.
races.
Yeah, so I will be in Canada and get some goss.
And I want to talk to you.
I will see you in Canada.
Oh, you're
going to be there as well?
Yeah, F2's racing.
Excellent.
Oh, there you go.
Guys, have a great time without me.
I know we said earlier that, you know,
with you before. It's just
especially drivers, it's all about F1.
know just how much
But
you care
now,
about working here.
I think 2's bigger than 1.
It's all about F2.
F2.
Now that you're in it.
2 is bigger than 1,
Yeah.
mathematically.
We'll be all cheering on Van Amersfoort in Canada.
We'll be there.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really enjoyed that conversation. Before the Canadian Grand Prix, I really want to talk to you. We were going to talk about Sergio Perez today and his decision to go to Cadillac. I know. Are you messaging your friends that you're late for dinner? You're only late for. Are you?
I am.
You need to go.
I don't know when the kitchen closes. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, thanks for being ever professional and being on your phone.
Well, how else am I going to communicate with
Yeah, exactly. Guys,
flag, smoke signals.
Right, you better run for dinner.
Okay, very good.
Thanks a lot, Omar.
Thank you.
It seems you have more patience than
I better go. What am I going to do with this trophy?
And I didn't realize you cared.
I don't know. You need to make a decision on the trophy. As Otmar departs from the studio, we never even hit record, so we can start the podcast for real now.
Let's do it now.
It'll be way
Now he's
better
gone.
now that Otmar's off for dinner. Fuck, he's gone. But isn't it boring? I don't think the problem is he doesn't bring anything to the podcast.
He's not your neighbour. Imagine him being your neighbour.
Unbelievable.
Oh, he's still here.
Thanks, Otmar. Oh, he's coming back. That's it for today's episode of High Performance Racing. As always, please keep your questions coming in. Please keep your thoughts coming in. Please make sure you subscribe wherever you enjoy this podcast. And please follow Rob on Instagram because he's getting in serious inferiority complex compared to the amount of followers that Otmar has. And we'll see you next time for another episode of High Performance Racing.
Can't sleep. What's going on, Skelly? All right, fess up, Skelly. Who are you working for? I know it's not Achilles, it's not Nyx. Dusa has no idea who you are. My father, no way. Hypnos, give me a break.
Sorry, pal, my lips are sealed.
How about you tell me who your sources are?
Nope.
Tell me.
No way.
Tell me.
I said no.
Tell me, Skelly.
Nuh-uh.
Come on, tell me, please.
No means no.
Why won't you tell me?
Nice try, pal.
What if I never hit you again?
No.
So help me, Skelly, if you don't tell me who you're working for, there will be no mercy, Skelly. Tell me. Or
All right. But you gotta promise me something. Promise not to let on or tell anybody in your fancy house, all right?
I promise. So?
It's Charon.
Charon?
Huh. Yeah, he's rich. He's got connections to guys like me, and I think he's got a horse in this chariot race he got going on around here with Papa.
What's his angle?
No idea. Maybe he...
And Hermes, he's what...
Yep. Now let's pretend like none of this ever happened so I can stick around, all right?
Okay. Malphon.
Didn't realize.
Get his nip.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, but you know. Just better.
Ready.
Still on 100. Nice.
Throughout the history of Pokemon, there was only one that I think Game Freak most likely regrets creating, and that Pokemon is Diglett, and here's why. Throughout the series, Game Freak has had to maintain the continuity that this Pokemon does not come out of the ground. Every single sprite of Diglett depicts it surrounded by mounds of dirt where it's dug up. Not revealing the bottom half of Diglett to the player is the entire point of this Pokemon, and the reason we have this. So showing what Diglett looks like underneath is forbidden. But because of this, they were suddenly tied into this continuity-wise. And there's a funny few quirks that are a result of this. In the Pokeathlon, there's a jumping minigame, and while Pokemon have different levels of jumping ability, Diglett is the only one who literally does not move. This renders it completely useless in this minigame. Sometimes you have to jump to score points and hit discs, and Diglett just will not. And then when we move to the hurdle minigame, Diglett just simply ducks under the hurdles instead of jumping over them. And when you enter Diglett or Dugtrio into the black and white musicals, normal Pokemon will dance and jump around, but obviously for Diglett, it will just glide around and spin. It's kind of magical. But the problems don't even end here. One incredible detail in Generation 5 is that the Pokemon have weight. When throwing out a strong, heavy Pokemon, it slams down out of the Pokeball. And all Pokemon have this slight falling animation when thrown out to some degree. All of them, except for Diglett, who just weirdly fades onto the screen. Did you know that Ken Sugimori, the man who drew all the official art for literally every single Pokemon, also created the Pokemon logo? This dude's art is incredibly iconic. I bet his only regret is drawing this guy. I bet you didn't know that Pokemon came out with a typing game for the Nintendo DS that came with a keyboard to connect to your DS. The game was called Pokemon Typing Adventure, and the soundtrack was actually so good. You're actually listening to one of the songs off it right now. A few videos back, I talked about Clefairy's theme song that plays during its dance under the moonlight in the Johto games, and how it was referenced in Pokemon Legends Arceus, and many of the other main series games. The remake of that cutscene in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver is by far my favorite though, and I stumbled upon something strange while looking deeper into it that I had never even heard talked about before. So basically when Mount Moon Square hits 8 p.m. on a Monday night, there will be Clefairy gathered around this little pond, with the moon now shining brightly into it. When you walk up to them, they will dance around and then run away, leaving a moonstone behind. But there's a hidden mechanic that happens during this cutscene that puzzle me. After the Clefairy leave this pond, it it's actually not the same that it used to be. The Clefairy's dancing here for some reason caused the Pokemon that spawn inside this water to change slightly. When surfing, instead of 40% Magikarp and 60% Poliwag, it changes to 100% Poliwag. And when fishing with a Super Rod, the spawn rate of Magikarp is changed to spawn all the way to level 40, when previously during the daytime, the highest level Magikarp you could find here is level 20. The two weaker fishing rods would normally fish up 90 to 100% Magikarp, but when the Clefairy's dance here, it changes to 90 to 100% Poliwag. Even though this doesn't have much of an effect on things, I still find it incredibly cool.
This next one is incredibly interesting to me. So in Generation 4, things in the game change depending on what day you play the game. Days like director Junichi Masuda's birthday increase the rate which eggs will hatch by a whopping 10%. And important dates like holidays such as Christmas Eve, Independence Day, Veterans Day, and many more all increase the rate in which you encounter wild Pokemon by 5%. While days that world tragedies occurred, the encounter rate decreases by 10%. Although this is a seemingly meaningless change, this feature is one of those things that adds a certain kind of magic and care to the older Pokemon games that I wish was still carried in the series. Did you know there are berries in the main series Pokemon games that are exclusive to Japan? In Generation 3, there were 12 berries distributed by the e-reader cards. If you were to theoretically obtain an e-reader card and an e-reader and transfer one of the berries up to Generation 5 or beyond, they would become the mysterious Enigma Berry, which if held by a Pokemon has the following effects. When a Pokemon holds an Enigma Berry and is hit by a super effective move, it will recover 1/4 of its HP. If you enter Rock Tunnel in Pokemon Yellow and happen to level up your Pikachu to level 26, where it learns Thunderbolt, you'll be greeted by this interesting animation that plays and lights up the cave temporarily. There is a very interesting item only present in Pokemon Gold Silver Crystal, only found in Cerulean Cave, called the Berserk G, that raises your Pokemon's attack by 2 stages, but also confuses you, kind of like using the move Swagger on yourself. This is probably a reference to a popular theory about the famous Berserker mushrooms that Vikings would eat to enter a dissociative trance-like state and battle non-stop.
Sure.
Kind of a dark thing to bring to a Pokemon game. So we all know in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Colosseum, there are some interesting changes to shiny forms of some Pokemon. But there's one in particular that I find to be incredibly interesting, and that Pokemon is Vaporeon. Huge shout out to one of my best friends in the community, Mr. Alpha, who's hunted shiny Eevee in this game and told me about this. When you evolve your Eevee into a Vaporeon, it acquires this interesting snowy aura that literally no other Pokemon has in this game or any game since. Although it's not exclusive to just the shiny version, I think it makes the shiny version look incredible.
My viewer Bailey sent me an extremely fascinating piece of
to a popular theory about the famous Berserker mushrooms that Vikings would eat to enter a dissociative trance-like state and battle non-stop. Kind of a dark thing to bring to a Pokemon game. So we all know in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Colosseum, there are some interesting changes to shiny forms of some Pokemon. But there's one in particular that I find to be incredibly interesting, and that Pokemon is Vaporeon. Huge shout out to one of my best friends in the community, Mr. Alpha, who's hunted shiny Eevee in this game and told me about this. When you evolve your Eevee into a Vaporeon, it acquires this interesting snowy aura that literally no other Pokemon has in this game or any game since. Although it's not exclusive to just the shiny version, I think it makes the shiny version look incredible.
My viewer Bailey sent me an extremely fascinating piece of Pokemon Lost media that I had never heard before. An entire animated feature that was even shown in theaters that now seems to be entirely lost. The short was called Pokemon 4D, Pikachu's Ocean Adventure, and Bailey described it as a 4D movie theater only experience, featuring Pikachu, Meowth, Latios going on a treasure hunt underwater. It was supposed to have 3D effects as well as 4D effects, assumingly such as spraying water at the audience or shaking the seats during certain portions of the short. But after the release of this movie, it was never found afterwards. It was never released by the Pokemon Company. It was never released online on a torrent site or something. It literally does not seem to exist. If anyone has ever seen this or heard of it, we might be able to get a good idea of what happened, or maybe even uncover the original short itself. It makes sense that maybe it didn't transfer as well to 2D screens, but to this day, it remains completely lost media, which is pretty strange for an official movie to never be found after its release in theaters. This fact is really neat. It has to do with a collection of 3 Pokemon sprites that you've probably never seen before. Most forward-facing sprites can be seen in the wild or in Pokemon battles, but there are 3 sprites in red and blue that not a single trainer has in the entirety of these games, and are also not available in the wild throughout any patch of grass either. Those Pokemon are Clefable, Poliwrath, and Golem. If these sprites seem unfamiliar, that makes sense, because the only way to see these sprites was either by peeking at the summary screen of this Pokemon or during a link cable battle. Otherwise, they went entirely unused. So they remain a relic of the original 151 sprites that are just slightly off, slightly unrecognizable. Some of my favorite facts are small but so fun to uncover. In between Black and White and Black and White 2, they changed around the design of Village Bridge. If you notice this bottom corner here, they changed the food truck to a tennis court, but there's still a remnant of the food truck here, still in the code. If we navigate over to this exact area, you can see that there should be a sign for the food truck right on this tile. If we line ourselves up with it and press A, you can see that we can still read this sign that was taken out, exactly as it was in the originals. They just forgot to delete the data for the sign text itself. Something really interesting I never knew was sent to me recently that has to do with the move Nature Power. Nature Power is a sort of gimmick move that changes depending on the terrain that you're in. For example, on a more sandy, rocky area, on multiple occasions, Nature Power becomes the move Earthquake. In water, sometimes it becomes the move Hydro Pump. But what's actually interesting is a sort of hidden version of this move you can see in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. During the Delta episode in the post-game, you end up fighting Deoxys in space. Looking back on this, it's actually really cool, but what's even cooler is that they changed Nature Power to adapt for this one instance. And when used, it turns into the super powerful move Draco Meteor, which is just insane. I feel like the chance of a person actually using Nature Power during the Deoxys battle is so low, so the fact that they thought of this is really neat. An interesting phenomena in early Pokemon games are hidden screens that you can access during the title sequences. Everybody knows about the B select code to reset your save file, but have you ever seen the hidden screen by pressing select and B on a Fire Red and Leaf Green cartridge? You can access a feature that allows you to connect a link cable to Ruby and Sapphire to fix the infamous berry glitch. But my viewer Peter sent me one that seems to be even more obscure. By pressing X and Y and down on the title screen of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you can access a mic test screen with a Jigglypuff on it. I had literally never seen this.
What the fuck?
In the game Pokepark 2, most Pokemon seem to use their anime voices rather than their static Pokemon cries from the usual main series. Which is interesting when you realize Porygon Z is in this game. And for reasons we're all aware, Porygon has not yet actually appeared in a Pokemon anime. So if you're curious what he sounds like, here it is. And it's weird. In Pokemon Go, every single type has a specific background that correlates and fits that type. But what's pretty weird is because the type of pure flying is quite rare, before Tornadus released in Pokemon Go, not a single Pokemon used the flying type wallpaper, and Tornadus is still to this day the only Pokemon who has it. There are multiple locations in Pokemon games that seem like they should give you a Pokemon encounter, but actually won't. One example of this is the first tile of a cave in Generation 3. No Pokemon can spawn in the initial tile you land on once you step inside of a cave. And this is true for multiple other gens as well. A more interesting one is the 4 tiles surrounding the fossils in the Gen 1 games, with no encounters appearing in this whole square, even after you pick up the fossils that were laying here and complete that little event. In Pokemon Emerald, in Meteor Falls, the very first bridge that you see when you enter this cave cannot wield any encounters either. In Generation 5, there's another encounter detail like this I bet you haven't noticed either. A single tile of grass cannot wield an encounter at all in this game. It takes at least 2 grassy tiles to spawn a Pokemon. As you can see, I went into this patch well over 100 times and didn't get a single encounter. I believe this was implemented to help you grind for shaking grass encounters, even in small tight areas like this.
I've talked about shiny Pokemon plenty on this channel, but I have to say this next shiny fact is the coolest one I've ever found. Shinies changing in the main games is a bit of an anomaly. Sure, a bunch changed from Generation 2 on, like the classic Charizard and Smeargle, but what about past this? The amount of shinies actually changing after this point is slim to none, and when it happens, the change is usually very subtle. But in June 2013, we witnessed this happen. During a pre-release footage showcase of Pokemon X and Y, they displayed a shiny Gogoat that has never been seen since. Here is Gogoat's shiny now, and here is the pre-release version. Although it never made it into the game, this definitely marks a unique circumstance where Game Freak not only displayed a shiny Pokemon during a showcase, but then rectified and changed that shiny later, breaking the norm in so many more ways than one. And I wonder if this Gogoat was even shown intentionally, or if it was a mistake. This oddity takes place in Pokemon Emerald and wasn't discovered or documented until 2021. So the Battle Pike was an area inside the Emerald Battle Frontier that challenged you to go through 7 fights in a row. Well, when challenging the Gentleman NPC, he has a Dusclops that attacks you with Ice Beam as soon as you enter. And there's something incredibly strange that can happen here. When Dusclops attacks, if you do not press the A button whatsoever, it will Ice Beam you while the man tells you to watch out. But if you press A during when this happens, you will get an extra line of dialogue where the man yells for his Dusclops to stop. In Pokemon Ruby Sapphire and Emerald, on the 2nd floor of the Sky Pillar, there is a cracked floor tile that if you stand on will crumble and land your player on a rock. A rock that is usually a background element and you cannot usually stand on. This does absolutely nothing to your game and you can simply step right off, but yeah, that's it. Can't get back on unless you do it again. And it doesn't do anything when you're on there either. But, yes. You know, it's kind of cool. I thought it was pretty cool. Poison Touch was an ability used in Pokemon Black and White that has a 30% chance to poison the Pokemon you're attacking. But this wasn't always the case. In the Japanese versions of these games, the chance to poison your foe was slashed down to just 20%. But if you were to set up a battle between a Japanese and an English version of the game, the player with the Japanese cartridge would still have this 10% disadvantage. I actually have one more really cool detail regarding Generation 5, the best generation. And in these games, after selecting your starter, you're forced into a battle with Bianca. And no matter what Pokemon you pick, you have a 99.9% chance to at least take a little bit of damage during this battle. But what if you don't?
I don't want Poseidon,
well, if you are lucky enough to get multiple critical hits in a row, get some lucky misses or growls, or if you just hack in a stronger starter and get past this battle unscathed, Sharon will have an extra line of dialogue addressing this. I think it's super cool that this was even accounted for, because the chance of this happening is literally almost zero.
A very underused and not well-known feature of Generation 4 is the dual slot mode.
I was really hoping to get multiple dashes. I need to save for Hermes'
DS's 2 game stops by changing the Pokemon that spawn in wild grass if you have a Game Boy game inserted into the console. While you're playing through Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum, once you beat the game, it gains you access to some really interesting encounters, like Zangoose on Route 208, or Pineco on Route 204. Solrock and Lunatone in Lake Verity if you have Ruby or Sapphire specifically in the DS.
But something strange occurs in Lake Buried when plugging in Fire Red and Leaf Green. Instead of giving a new encounter from a different game, the new encounter that spawns doesn't really match the theme of these dual slot mode encounters. An extremely low-leveled Bibarel and Staravia appear at a 4% rate. There isn't any other route where things like this happen, and it seems like a weird programming error rather than an intentional decision. Of course, these wild Pokemon can be shiny as well, and with that 4% encounter rate, they make for an extremely rare, one-off strange encounter, and probably one of the rarest shiny Pokemon that you could find like this. In Generation 3, there are a few timelines you can follow through the game that act as little side quests. Ones that I bet you have never noticed unless you have played every single inch of these Generation 3 games. Let me show you what I mean. Our journey starts off with finding a specific trainer in Ruby and Sapphire, who is extremely well hidden. So well hidden, there's a chance you never even knew about her. She's right here. This is Psychic Jacqueline. The only thing to take note of at this point in time is her Pokemon, Abra, because that is key to her small story. Although she is gone in Emerald, her story picks back up in Fire Red and Leaf Green, where she can be found again at the very end of the game on the Sevi Islands. She was apparently teleported and went to the wrong place and got stuck on this island. What's even better is that you can see it was definitely her, but given the time gap, her party has grown, she has more Pokemon, and her original Abra has evolved. Little small stories like this are super neat to find. Thank you Zone for sending me this one.
In Pokemon Emerald, there is a rare candy hidden in Area 6 of the Safari Zone that cannot actually be interacted with if the player tries to pick it up facing from the top or the left. Why? I don't know, but who cares? In Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver, it's possible to get a line of text from Lyra on the Pokegear saying that her Marill evolved into an Azumarill, but when you go check on her, it will still be a Marill. One cool thing I always liked learning about is little things about Pokemon anatomy, and this is one that I thought was pretty rad. The colors on the ends of Magnezone's magnets can actually turn on and off at will, as seen in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. Ah, Slowpoke Tail, the forbidden fruit, the tasty treat we were all teased with for generations. And I know if you're as sick in the head as I am, you wonder just for a second how tasty they really are. Well, if you were to hack one into Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it actually can't even be eaten, and is entirely useless and for some reason a key item. In Generation 4, there was a glitch on the GTS which allowed the player to get an item called the Seal Bag, which holds 10 seals, which is basically a way less effective version of the seal case. As you all know, Pokemon finally once again follow you in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and because of the new art style, the big full-scale models from Sword and Shield would not really work in this game. So some of our old Pokemon friends are a little bit smaller. But I know you're all dying to know, so here it is. This is what Wailord would look like if it were full scale.
Should come in useful.
Shadow Lugia is agreed upon as probably one of the coolest Pokemon designs ever. Vanillite is probably agreed upon as one of the worst Pokemon designs ever. Although I like it, but that's a secret between you and me, and you don't dare tell a soul. But they were in fact designed by the same person. In Pokemon Black and White, Tepig's sprite seems to have slightly changed in the starter selection screen between some versions of the beta, most notably his leg being a lot skinnier than in the final release. There is one unused move hidden in the files of Generation 6 called the Light of Ruin, which is a 140 base power Fairy-type move that if put into the game would be the strongest Fairy-type move aside from Z-moves. During the bug catching contest in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, if at the end of the contest the player has a full party
and their newly captured Pokemon is sent to the PC, it is referred to as Bill's PC, as opposed to someone's PC if the player has not yet met Bill. This video is so stupid, there's no way anyone's gonna watch this. There's a little technical continuity break in Generation 4 during the member card event, where the player falls into a nightmare to go catch Darkrai on Noonien Island. The break is that the underground can actually be accessed at any time from the island, even though technically being asleep during the event. As you're probably aware, it's possible to use Dig to escape from Burn Tower in Heart Gold or Silver, but have you ever wondered why? No? Me neither. Well, it's because for whatever reason, the Burn Tower is classified as a cave area rather than the normal building in the game's code. This is also true for Bell Tower and Sprout Tower as well, and they are the only buildings known to have this effect. It's likely that it was done to allow Pokemon to be able to spawn inside. But unlike other buildings, Burmy will take on its sandy cloak rather than its trash cloak if it battles here. Bonus fact, Sprout Tower was also considered for a Smash Bros. Stage in early development. Okay, I have to admit this next fact is actually incredibly interesting, but I had to at least sneak one good fact into this video. Going into the Sinnoh remakes, I was really hoping to see a 3D rendition of the original Gen 4 Shiny Sparkles, which we all know are the best. But sadly, we did not get that, and the Sparkles are very similar to Sword and Shields. But there's one key difference that makes these incredibly unique. Unlike every single other Shiny Sparkle we have ever had, these Sparkles are completely random. The Sparkle itself is more like a particle effect that gets expelled from the Pokemon, and will in turn be slightly different every single time you throw your Pokemon out, which I think is insanely cool. Shout out to Anubis on Twitter who discovered this. The move Struggle can only be used when every single one of your move's power points has reached 0. But interestingly enough, the move actually has contest stats, even though Struggle cannot be used in contests since moves don't even take PP when doing them, and it probably only has them so that the game won't crash if somehow tampered with. Several lines of unused text in Pokemon Gold and Silver show that instead of headbutting trees, it was originally planned to be activated with honey, or as it was called originally, Sweet Honey. There's even lines of text showing you would slather it on the tree like in Generation 4. Speaking of unused text, we all know the horrors of undoubtedly the worst weather condition that was ever put in a Pokemon game, fog, which without the HM would make moves miss half the time. Well, thankfully, it was only limited to the 4th generation of Pokemon, but just barely. While digging in the files of Generation 5, 2 lines of text were recovered that show fog was very close to being a part of the game.
God.
There is a weird glitch when importing Farfetch'd or Sirfetch'd into Pokemon Home. They will act as if they have a nickname and cannot be re-nicknamed when put back into Sword and Shield.
I don't want
it seems like this is due to Pokemon Home assigning them the incorrect apostrophe. And this glitch was surprisingly not fixed in the entirety of Pokemon Sword and Shield's life. Champion Diantha actually has the most balanced team of any champion, because each of her 6 party members all have a different highest stat. Hawlucha for speed, Tyrantrum for attack, Auroras for HP, Gourgeist for defense, Goodra for special defense, and Gardevoir for special attack. In Generation 3, the status screen of the move Water Sport has a very weird error. It states that the move has 100% accuracy, even though it targets the field as a whole, so it ignores accuracy and evasion checks. In Heart Gold Soul Silver, Regigigas has the widest overworld sprite of all the Pokemon. In Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver, Nosepass is programmed to learn the move Head Smash through breeding as an egg move, but no other Pokemon in the Mineral group can legitimately learn it to pass it down in these games. It was removed from Nosepass's egg move list in Generation 5, but now in some of the newer games, there's Pokemon who can actually pass it down, and now Nosepass can't even learn it. There is one patch of grass that exists in the Johto region that was only present in Pokemon Crystal, not in Gold and Silver or even Heart Gold or Soul Silver. The spot is right at the upper entrance of the Ruins of Alph, probably to allow the player to catch Pokemon on this route without traveling the long way around.
The levels of the Pokemon were even adjusted to be caught earlier, which makes it even weirder that it was not present in the remade version of this region. And to my knowledge and research, this is the only time something like this has ever happened.
What do you mean?
Hey, I know Window of Al in Heart Gold or Soul Silver. The spot is right at the upper entrance of the
I know
Ruins
that's
of Al,
right. That's
probably
always
to
supposed
allow
to
the player to
happen.
catch Pokemon on this route
I
without
remember
traveling
that.
the long way around. The levels of the
Hey,
Pokemon
Carl,
were even
that's what I
adjusted to be
remember
caught
that.
earlier, which makes it even weirder that it was not present in the remade version of this region. And to my knowledge and research, this is the only time something like this has ever happened. Hey, if you're one of my viewers and you live in Australia and happen to own a copy of Pokemon Diamond, go check your box art, because there is actually a very blatant error on it. As we all know, Palkia is the god of space, and Dialga is the god of time. But yet on the official PAL insert of Diamond, it reads, "You search for the Pokemon that rules space" in Pokemon Diamond version. Also in Pokemon Diamond, the TM description for the move Rock Tomb for some reason wrongly states that using it can cause the target to flinch. But somehow this isn't even the last issue with Rock Tomb either. When this move is used in a double battle, it appears to attack the Pokemon opposite that the player has chosen, but the damage is actually done to the right Pokemon. For some reason in Pokemon Sun and Moon, Mortal can learn Sunny Day via TM, but Shiinotic can't. What? If I were to ask you what you've been told the shiny odds are in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shiny Pearl, I would be surprised if you said anything other than 1 out of 4,096. Since every single main series Pokemon game since X and Y have all had the same fixed number for their shiny odds, and every game before that all shared the same shiny odds of 1 out of 8,192. But believe it or not, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are the first main series games in Pokemon history that this is not actually true. I'm absolutely no code expert and don't really understand whatsoever how this works, but Twitter user that goes by Sires M found out that the way the code was written made the shiny odds for Pokemon sway somewhere between 1 out of 4,082 and 1 out of 4,109. This seems to be some kind of programming error, as this has never been the case before, and as of the release of this video has not been fixed. But for now, this means that for the first time ever, your trainer ID could actually affect your shiny odds. I've been saving you for a moment just like this.
Yes. Thank you for giving me something.
In most games, the legendary theme that plays is the exact same in either version of the game. What I mean by this is whether you're fighting Groudon or Kyogre, the legendary theme that will play during the battle is the exact same. It's just a legendary encounter theme. But if you listen closely to the legendary theme for Zekrom, it has a fill section where you can hear raging electricity in the background. Take a listen and see if you can hear it. In Reshiram's theme, however, during the same song and the same fill, instead of electricity, you hear raging fire. In Generation 3, during Wally's catching tutorial cutscene, if the Pokemon game is tampered with to somehow burn Wally's Zigzagoon, for some reason the burn status will not show up on Zigzagoon's health bar. There's actually quite a few interesting things that can happen with this cutscene due to its sequence-breaking nature. For example, not only can Wally's Ralts be shiny, which you've probably seen before, but so can his Zigzagoon. Although neither will be shiny throughout the rest of the game when this cutscene ends.
I think this power
In Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, after you defeat the first gym leader, there's an encounter cutscene with Barry that you're forced to go through if you try to continue the story by heading back towards Jubilife City. But all he really does here is just bump into you and then leave. So whether this cutscene is actually important is debatable. The interesting thing, though, is that by healing at the Jubilife City Pokemon Center and then catching an Abra before you enter Sandium Town, first gym, and then walk up
I was just kidding, I was just kidding.
Teleport back to Jubilife, you would actually skip this encounter entirely. The game will then continue on like normal, like nothing ever happened. In the very beginning of Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, you're thrown into a battle when you select your starter. Naturally, Game Freak wanted you to be able to win this first
Give me the
battle,
death defense
so they
twice
added
and now
in
I
some
lose
strange
it.
mechanics
Fuck's
regarding
sake.
the AI, either a Poochyena in Ruby and Sapphire or a Zigzagoon in Emerald. The question is, whether or not it's possible to lose this battle. If you purposely use non-damaging moves until you're low health, the Zigzagoon will actually just flee from you. I had never seen this before until I tried it. What's weird is that because Pokemon can't usually flee unless you catch them in the Safari Zone, the way that Zigzagoon flees is kind of strange, because it will flee after you use your last move of the battle. I wanted to see if I could get a critical hit and lose this battle to see what actually happens. So I replayed the sequence about 20 times, and I was finally able to get a high roll tackle on me in perfect range for me to die. All the normal text saying that you white it out will still occur, but as soon as you exit the battle, the cutscene with Professor Birch will just continue like normal, even though it said I white it out. I have a small detail I doubt anybody watching this has ever noticed about the way you encounter Ho-Oh in this game. Ho-Oh is considered by Pokemon lore to be the guardian of the skies. Rainbows are known to shine from its wings, and it's the classic mystical firebird creature, and that's why it's so cool. But the developers wanted you to feel this when you encountered this Pokemon. And as you ascended up Naval Rock to encounter Ho-Oh, you'll be greeted by a murky tower view. A slightly dim gray sky is peering down around you, until you encounter the legendary Ho-Oh, when the sky is turned into a much brighter, more inspiring fiery blue. But what truly shocked me is once you defeat Ho-Oh in battle, the entire sky stays this bright blue color. It permanently affects this area when it's encountered, and I've never seen any details like this in Pokemon before. I think it's incredibly cool that it clears the sky, signifying its pure power to affect your game and the player so intentionally. If I were to ask you what generation the move Waterfall was introduced, what would you say? I think many would come to the answer of Generation 2, but I think it's slightly less known that the move Waterfall was actually present in the games since the moment Pokemon was released with Red and Blue. It's the same move with the same base power, just without the ability to climb waterfalls. You see, the reason this was so well hidden is because Waterfall in this game was not a TM or an HM, or in the game very much at all. It was only able to be learned by 2 Pokemon out of the entire 151 roster, them being Goldeen and Seaking. On top of this, they didn't even learn the move until levels 39, making it even more inaccessible since most people don't have a Seaking on their Elite 4 team. But this one was news to me, and I wonder if you guys already knew this. So one of my favorite motifs in early Pokemon is hiding world-building elements in the environments, leaving it up to the patience of the player to discover them. A great example of this is the hidden Wailord of Marine Tube in Black and White 2.
That would be nice,
that only
but
appears for 2 hours out of the day, between 3 and 5 p.m. You'll even earn a medal for seeing this Wailord. But there's an even lesser known secret that you can find on Driftfield Drawbridge in Driftfield City. If you go to the Driftfield Drawbridge and just stand still and wait for a little while, you'll actually start to hear something. You can hear the sounds of planes and helicopters flying by. You can also hear the cry of Charizard. This is because the bridge is sometimes referred to as Charizard Bridge.
How many do
They snuck in a little nod towards that as well.
We got 500 early.
I'm sure if you've played Pokemon Crystal, you remember how after you beat the 8th gym leader Claire, there's an additional bit of story where you have to travel into the Dragon's Den and take a test to determine if you're worthy of the badge. After this, when leaving the Dragon's Den, Claire will then stop you and give you the TM for Dragon Breath. Well, I would like to propose a question. What if inside of the Dragon's Den, after you took the test, but before you could leave, your last Pokemon in your party ends up dying to poison damage? Do you just not get the TM for Dragon Breath whatsoever? Well, no. Actually, for some reason, you end up getting two. Upon waking up in front of the Pokemon Center, if you enter back into Claire's gym and speak to her, she will play the same dialogue line as she normally would. But then if you head back to the Dragon's Den afterwards, as soon as you land on this tile, the original cutscene will play and she will give you a second Dragon Breath TM. In Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, on Route 225, there's a very interesting NPC that's hiding an Easter egg that I'm almost positive you missed. Her name is Ace Trainer Deanne. As you probably know, cherished Pokeballs are practically unobtainable without a cheating device, only capable of coming from certain event Pokemon. Then how on earth does this random trainer Deanne actually have a Tropius in a Cherish Ball? Well, this is not an oversight, and it's actually a nod to the first ever event Pokemon distributed in a Cherish Ball, which was Shokutan's Tropius all the way back in 2007 as part of a campaign for an old Japan-only Pokemon-themed TV show called Pokemon Sunday. In the Pokemon League and Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, there's an interesting quirk with these lights that I can almost guarantee you did not know. And that is the speed of how fast they flash, because it actually changes depending on what localization of the game you have. In the Japanese versions, they're much faster than the North American release. In Generation 1, Aerodactyl was unable to learn the move Earthquake, but later on when transferred to Gold, Silver, Crystal, it gains the ability to learn this move. The reason this is interesting has to do with Pokemon Stadium. If you use the time capsule and trade an Aerodactyl with the move Earthquake back to Generation 1 and then to Stadium, something very interesting will happen. Because you could only transfer Pokemon into Stadium from Red, Blue, or Yellow, Aerodactyl was technically not intended to have this move. And when used in battle, you could see an entirely unique Aerodactyl attack animation for this move only. To my research, this is the only time Aerodactyl uses this animation in this game. And there was a point in time between the release of Stadium and Gold, Silver, and Crystal where seeing this animation was completely impossible. In June of 2008, Pokemon held an event distribution for Deoxys in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. The event was held at GameStops in the US, and to promote this, they handed out flyers promoting the event Pokemon. But for some reason on this flyer, there was a pretty huge mix-up. Where it shows the information about this Pokemon, it says the event is for Darkrai instead of Deoxys. Shout out to Professor Rex, you guys should go subscribe to him by the way, who literally photocopied this for me since there are no pictures of this on the entire internet that we could find. In Pokemon Black and White 2, if you do not collect this max potion from Route 11, and then you use your dowsing machine by this city, it will reveal that there's a hidden item here. But then the hidden item will disappear once you collect the max potion.
Back in the day, it was normal for a Pokemon game to release in Japan at least a year before it ever came to the US. Many kids in the late and early 2000s grew up with the game Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2. But in Japan, the history of Pokemon Stadium is vastly different. You see, there is not actually 2, but 3 Pokemon Stadium games in Japan. That's right, they have an extra entry in the series that never saw a release in America at all. In Japan, Pokemon Stadium 2 is technically Pokemon Stadium 3, and Pokemon Stadium is Pokemon Stadium 2. The missing game has gained the fan name of Pokemon Stadium 0. The game came out on August 1st of 1998, which was exactly 1 month before the North American debut of Pokemon Red and Blue. The fact that this game came out before anyone in the West even knew what Pokemon was is probably why it's so incredibly obscure. Pokemon Stadium 0 had an extremely limited roster of Pokemon, only allowing you to choose from a pool of 42, leaving out a lot of unevolved and middle evolution Pokemon. The way the actual game functioned itself was also kind of different. In order to do anything other than battle, you had to have a Game Boy game saved at the Pokemon Center and connected via the transfer pack to even play at all. Apparently they did plan to add the rest of the Pokemon with an expansion through the 64
I love this game.
But due to delays, they released Pokemon Stadium 2 instead for what we know as Pokemon Stadium 1.
Yeah, I actually need that now.
Pokemon Stadium 2, which is Pokemon Stadium 1, and then Pocket Monster Stadium Gold and Silver, which is Pokemon Stadium 2. So 3 games.
But now it's kind of just a weird mark on Pokemon's release history that has been pretty forgotten about. An interesting oddity can be seen in Heart Gold and Soul Silver in Cherry Grove City. When you return to this early game town with Surf, you can access this small patch of water technically on Route 30. But if you walk up to Route 30 and surf to the south, you can see the location tag rolls over to Cherry Grove City. This might seem normal, but it's when we encounter a Pokemon when we see an oddity here.
Oh my god.
In the top half of this pond, we can encounter Poliwag and Poliwhirl, but when we surf to the south end and find a Pokemon,
this just means
the
I can do
is rolled as if you were in the ocean west of Cherry Grove. A strange case where 2 different tile sets of Pokemon occur in the same body of water.
Oh my god.
This is not a very popular occurrence in the game. This is a quick one, but it's really fun.
Okay.
We all probably know about the Friday Drifters in Valley Windworks.
developing.
It's a little Drifloon who appears in the overworld on Fridays in the Sinnoh games. It's a small encounter and has no story significance, although it kind of does.
Yes, I go for the
If you're playing through the story
try to
of
get the one.
Pearl and reach the summit of Mount Coronet, where the climax of the story occurs,
Let's do
you
this
might remember a scene where the sky is covered in these colors, and it flashes scenes of the map, including the Valley Windworks. If you complete the story on Friday with the Drifloon spawned, it's possible to see the Drifloon floating there just for a second when the camera flashes to it during this cutscene. It's so short, but to me this is really cool. What's better is that this is even possible in the remix as well, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, in full short high.
Oh my god. They have some range, bro.
Is when Pokemon things are hidden in other streams of media, like the hidden Pikachu in Osmosis Jones. But recently, I stumbled upon something neat in the 2011 game Catherine. The game isn't affiliated with Pokemon in any way really to my knowledge, so it would come to a surprise that there is an unused music track in the files that bears striking resemblance to the Diamond and Pearl battle theme, and is thought to be a rendition of it, although not present in normal gameplay. Take a listen. If you are someone who has spent many hours playing Black and White 2,
You may know that shiny sparkles are not the only kind of sparkle effect you can have on a Pokemon. There are actually 3 different shiny-like effects
What
you
the
can
fuck
have
is
in
this
the game.
range actually?
One, of course, is shiny Pokemon. The second one is the star animation you can receive by beating a Pokestar Studios movie.
Looks so
strange
good too.
ending. The star looks like this. You've probably seen this. But there's one more that can affect a Pokemon. In order to achieve this final sparkle, you need to have first beaten Pokemon Black and White completely. Then once you start Black and White 2, you need to activate the Memory Link feature. After this, N's Pokemon that he used throughout the story of Black and White will appear in the wild at a 1% rate throughout the map of Black and White 2. When you encounter one, he will have a special sparkle that looks like this. But here's the thing. Let's say you have a shiny Pokemon, and you use this shiny in Pokestar Studios and get the strange ending, giving your Pokemon the star animation. The star animation will actually replace your Pokemon's shiny sparkles forever. You will now have a shiny that doesn't sparkle like normal. But the question is, where do N's Pokemon fit into all of this? If we hack the game to make this Pokemon, N's wild Pokemon, a shiny, will N's sparkles play or the shinies? Let's find out. After testing this, I think we found probably the coolest solution. Interestingly, the shiny sparkles and N sparkles will play over each other. It looks super cool in game, and I've never really seen this before. It's a shame that N's Pokemon can't be shiny, otherwise this would be really cool to have in game legitimately.
Should check this way.
One of my favorite areas of obscure Pokemon trivia is the fact that sometimes 2 Pokemon will be linked together.
You're serious, bro? That is the way. I never liked the long range, but I guess it's quite flattering in this small area.
But even less people know Miltank and Tauros, with their same base stat total, spawning on the same routes, being based on the same real-life animal. But one you may have really missed is Trubbish and Minccino. Minccino's motif
it's
is
just
that
faster
it
for me
uses
to do
its
this.
tail as a broom and mops and loves to clean things. It prefers cleaner habitats and is obsessively tidying its area, according to the Pokedex. Which seems like a one-off comment, like the Pokedex usually does, until you realize that totally makes sense when you look at the spawn rates of Minccino. Minccino of course spawns next to the recycling plant in Sun and Moon, and in its home game, you can see that its spawns almost completely overlap with Trubbish, the trash Pokemon, who according to its Pokedex entries, prefers unsanitary places.
Yeah, but the game
wherever
you can think
Trubbish
it's
goes,
definitely
Minccino will follow and be there to clean and tidy up the area. I just think this is a cute detail that not many people know about, and I love when Pokemon does this.
I stumbled across a Japanese article about game design with a few critical team members at Game Freak attending, where they went in depth about a mechanic that I frankly had no idea existed in Scarlet and Violet, called the Meow System. It all started when a programmer, Kitamura, decided to head to the mountains and nearby zoos to study how animals made sounds throughout the day and night. They found that at night, many medium-sized mammals don't make any sounds at all. Instead, all you can hear at night are bugs. As implied, they took the time to implement this truth into the game. The interview provided some behind-the-scenes photos where you can see this feature in use. As the morning comes, you'll hear more birds, but this isn't even the extent of it. During their test, they also noted the way birds talk in real life with one another, and developed a system in tandem with the Meow System that causes one bird Pokemon to respond with a call when another Pokemon is affected by the Meow System and calls, like a call and response. They also talked about how they gave every single Pokemon a secret type, if you would call it that relates to when, if, and how they cry. Crazy.
Some shiny Pokemon are so rare, so elusive, that they are practically no longer even possible to find. Today, I'm going to break open the case of a long-lost shiny Arceus. In 2015, to coincide with the movie, the Pokemon Company hosted a distribution event for Arceus that lasted about 3 months.
This event was exclusive to Japan, and the only way to receive an Arceus was to pre-order a ticket to the upcoming movie. Once your ticket was pre-ordered, you would receive a code you could redeem for one single Arceus. The Arceus you received was entirely random. There were 20 different versions you could get. 19 of them were simply Arceus holding one of the random element plates, and sometimes a silk scarf. But during this event, there was a special 20th form, a shiny Arceus, holding the silk scarf. You could tell this Arceus apart from its original trainer, which was Dahara City, the setting of the Pokemon movie it was an advertisement for. Unlike many other events, you could redeem as many codes as you wanted through this, and receive an Arceus, although you'd have to pre-order a ticket every single time, so it wasn't cheap. Those who were lucky enough to hit that 1 out of 20 chance are now owners of an impossible to obtain shiny. Once the event was over by mid-August, even if you found a code, the codes would no longer work. The event for the Dahara City Arceus would later pop up again in Japan and Taiwan at the end of the year in early December. But strangely, the shiny Arceus was removed from the event entirely. So if you happen to buy a Japanese cartridge and stumble upon a golden Arceus from Dahara City, you have found a rare relic of a shiny Pokemon that has been entirely lost to time, and is probably one of very few.
In Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, the nature of your Pokemon has a very interesting effect that I'm quite positive you have never noticed. As you're well aware, natures raise one stat and lower another on your Pokemon, or don't do anything at all. Well, if you happen to have a nature that is plus or minus your speed stat, it will affect the speed of your Pokeball throwout animation. It's a little hard to tell, but watch closely. The left is a Pokemon with a neutral nature, and the right is a plus speed nature Pokemon. As you can see, the Pokemon with the plus speed nature completes its animation much faster. Shout out to my friend TC Bronzon, who I saw this from on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
by the way, I want to interact with more of my subscribers, so make sure to go follow me on Twitter. Additionally, all the way back in Generation 3, a very similar but hard to notice quirk was added that I bet you didn't catch either. You see, if the Pokemon leading your party is a higher level than the wild Pokemon that spawn in that area, the encounter animation will actually be significantly faster. Here's another side-by-side comparison. If you have dove into the world of obscure Pokemon knowledge, you might know that in Generation 2, the way shiny Pokemon are determined is different than any other generation, in that they're determined by their actual stats and IVs, as opposed to hidden IDs like later on. Well, the original shiny formula actually had some interesting effects on some Pokemon. The Pokemon that were directly affected were any Pokemon with an 88-to-12 male-to-female gender ratio, such as the Gift Eevee in Goldenrod City and the 3 Johto starters. Due to the way shininess was determined, for whatever reason, the 12% female versions of these Pokemon could not be shiny whatsoever. No matter how many times you reset your game, you will never find a shiny female starter or Eevee in these games. The Safari Zone. The spot where you spend hours trying to catch low-percent Pokemon until you give up or find a shiny one, and it flees and you smash your game cartridge.
Come on, not now, don't turn off now.
But what if there's an easier way to go about this? Well, if you happen to be in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, then you're in luck. There's actually a very useful glitch with the Pokeblocks mechanic. By putting the exact right combination of Pokeblocks in the feeder and throwing the right colored blocks at your targeted Pokemon, it will make any Mon you want to catch completely unable to flee. I left a link in the description to a guide to this by my friend Shiny Collector. But this isn't the only quirk with Pokeblocks in the same Safari Zone. The way a Pokemon reacts when it is given a Pokeblock will actually display its nature. For instance, a hardy Pokemon will make 3 jumps, growing in height each time, while a careful Pokemon will make 3 small jumps, whereas a docile Pokemon will make no movement at all. In Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, if you happen to take a stroll onto Route 212 on May 1st, you'll be greeted by the only day in the entire game where it will not be raining on that route. Have you ever played Pokemon Puzzle League for the Nintendo 64 and Wii? No? Yeah, me neither. But in this game, there's an unused voice line buried in the files. It contains a recording of one of the developers confessing their love for somebody. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen go unused in a Pokemon game, but I gotta admit, it's kinda cute. Check this out.
ゆみちゃん、いつも愛してる。I love you, Liz.
In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Gates to Infinity, the Swanna that runs an inn and cafe makes a now extremely outdated reference to the song Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen. One common theme in Pokemon is hiding very obvious nods or Easter eggs just barely out of the player's reach. And while researching this, I found one example that I had never seen before. You may have seen Pattern Rush on the Sevi Islands in Fire Red and Leaf Green that on your first run through you might think is a standard grassy route, but from an aerial view resembles a circuit board. But if you think that's a reach, then when's the last time you floated above Snow Point City in Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum? Because you might think twice about every location you go in when you notice this city is designed to resemble a snowflake. Did you know Pokemon and Naruto might have more in common than you think? The move Double Team is actually based on the same idea as Naruto's Shadow Clone Jutsu. In Japan, Double Team is called Kage Bunshin. If you're a goated sub-watcher, you've heard this term before.
Too easy, and we made it in time too. Okay.
You probably remember in the very beginning of almost every single Pokemon game where the professor throws out a Pokemon and introduces you to the world. Well, in Generation 5, the best generation, it is the only generation where the professor throws out a Pokemon, and it has a chance to be shiny. Not just Minccino in Black and White, but even the Cinccino in Black and White 2, meaning this was intended or went unnoticed. In Pokemon Emerald on the Cycling Road, there is an NPC that tells you how fast you cross the bridge, down to 1/100th of a second. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one who, when I heard this, instantly got speedrunner brain and wanted to see how fast I could. Well, good luck, because the world's fastest time is 9.5 seconds. And one day on my Twitch channel, Twitch TV, Blue Boy Fan by the way, I tried to tie or beat that record. After perfecting the optimized route, I was able to snag a 9.16, but I found out that getting down to 9.15 has to do with some kind of frame roll thing that I know nothing about. But it was really fun, so if you enjoy a good challenge, just off that Emerald copy and let me know if you can tie my 9.16. If you take a copy of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and push them together, you create a picture of Ultra Necrozma. There's an interesting glitch in Sword and Shield regarding Shedinja. If you have a mark or ribbons on your Nincada and then evolve the Pokemon, check Shedinja and it will have none of the ribbons or marks, but interestingly enough, it will keep its title when thrown out in battle as if it still had it. Shout out to Anubis, who I found this from on Twitter. On April 27, 2011, a Pokemon distribution event called the Secret Egg event started that lasted for 1 month. During this month, you could go to any of your local Toys R Us and receive a mystery egg. An egg that could hatch into any of 3 Pokemon, Pidove, Pansage, or Axew. This event was held to correspond with Ash's, Silence, or Iris' Pokemon. But what if you could end up with a slightly different Pokemon? So there's a big trend when it comes to most event Pokemon in that they're usually shiny locked. And they are. You see, most event Pokemon can never sparkle or are advertised as shiny and are already predetermined. It's usually pretty cut and dry what kind of Pokemon you are receiving, especially after they did away with event Pokemon that took you to whole new locations in-game after Generation 4. Also, please bring that back, that was the coolest thing ever. But these Pokemon and a few others are a little bit different. You see, the way shinies are determined in all Pokemon games past Gen 2 is that they have to line up the IDs and personality value of the Pokemon with your own trainer's ID, almost as if there's a secret 1 out of 8,192 match for a Pokemon to be shiny. But these 3 Pokemon were designed to never be able to match your ID as soon as you receive them. So how could they possibly be shiny? Well, let's say we've received an Axew egg from the event, and even though the Pokemon will never match your ID to be shiny, it doesn't mean that it won't match someone else's. Let's say you trade the egg to your friend, we'll call him Gary. Gary has a completely different trainer ID and secret ID than you do, so the lock that was once applied to the Pokemon no longer has any effect. But because we only have 1 of these eggs, it means that Gary has only 1 out of 8,192 odds to match perfectly with this egg and be shiny. And if it isn't, he has to reset to before the egg was hatched and give it to someone else. A completely backwards shiny hunt, where the shiny Pokemon itself hunts the trainer. Yes, it's true you could theoretically just start a new game and play through until you can trade and hatch the egg, and if it isn't shiny, you start a new game, and on and on and on. But I have a dream of a different approach.
I had a feeling that our court musician would eventually come back to his senses and his talents, boy. Here yet again, my intuitions were correct.
It says I'm really the bastard son of Zeus, but also indelibly connected to the god of wine, and how your parents tore me to pieces, giving rise to mortals, but that I'm always going to be stuck here.
You fill Orpheus's mind with nonsense, he produces nonsense. Nonsense, I presume, shall spread from this place far and wide. So
I'm not worried. Orpheus plays for a very small audience. I hope. Dusa. Hey, Orpheus, you know I'm very happy that things turned out well between you and Eurydice, but looking back...
You're sorry, Zagreus. Whatever for? If not for you.
Well, it's just... when I met her and I found out the two of you were having problems, I just want...
But you didn't make things worse, my friend. And, truth be told, I do not think I ever would have asked for help at any point, because...
Well, thank you also, mate.
Next year, do I want my job again? More than anything, this job, it means everything to me. I mean, working with you.
Your one more chance has certain stipulations, Dusa. If you think it is necessary to exceed the allotted time for your responsibilities, I expect you to ask. You are not the sole...
What? What's next? You mean, like, start right now? Now? I mean, I don't have a lot of pressing obligations, so I'll do it. Yes, I accept. I'm so excited to be back. Where do I even start? I can survey the lounge.
Do your best work.
Hooray. Those spices working out all right? Why, thank you. Seems like a good deal. You trying to fleece me here? This one's for you, Three Fates. Anything to cut Theseus down to size.
Court is now in session.
Coronoct, awaken. Looking good.
Yeah, that one's pretty nice.
I can't.
Yeah, keep going. That'll do it. All right, back to work.
Hexagriff. What's that one do? Upgraded. Which to choose? Don't have enough ambrosia. Go with that one. No stopping me this time. Hidden power. There, that's it.